All right. Welcome to Dungeons and Devs, the show where we get a bunch of game devs together. We play some D&D, we talk about game dev stuff, and we just generally have a good time. I'm Xavier. I'm a 3D character artist at Insomniac Games, currently working on Spider-Man for the PS4. It should be pretty cool. Today I've got a really good group together, and we're going to do some introductions and then some discussion. So, Garret, do you want to tell us a little about you, how you got into game development, what you do?
Yeah, I'm Garret Spenst. I'm a general 3D artist. I do environment work, mostly freelance stuff. I graduated from the Academy of Art in 2015, and I briefly worked on Allison Road, and I've been doing freelance stuff, and I'm a marketplace content creator for the Unreal Engine. And currently I'm actually the content manager for Heroes Hype, which is a Heroes of the Storm organization. So yeah, I studied games, got into games, and kind of just been freelancing my way through it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. This is your first time on, right?
It is. It is my first time on, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm excited too. We actually have a couple of three repeat people on today. And speaking of, Doug, do you want to tell us a little about yourself, how you got into game dev, and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, sure. I'm Doug, obviously. Got a BFA in game art and design while doing military stuff years ago. Got my first, cut my teeth as a contract 3D generalist, essentially for Lawbreakers. About a year after that, I started contracting as a analyst on the Unreal Engine over at Epic Games, and I've been there for about the past 2 years. And I still do freelance 3D art on the side, mostly hard surface modeling and texturing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being on here again. I believe this is your third time on Dungeons and Devs. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you for returning. It's always a pleasure playing with you. I think you're going to be playing a character you've had before, right?
Yes, Sayet, the female dragonborn, who at this point has seen some stuff.
Yeah, she has definitely seen some shit, as it were. Well, thanks for returning. Emil, you've actually been on before as well, but tell us a little about yourself, what you do, and where you are right now. I believe you just started a new job, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, I'm Emil. I'm a senior character artist at Warner Brothers Games in Montreal. Just recently started, as Xavier mentioned. I've been in the industry since 2006, I think. So it's been a while for me. I've bounced around through a few different studios, starting at a smaller indie studio and then moving up to AAA stuff. I think AAA is kind of where I've enjoyed for a while, but I think maybe after a while it's probably going to get too much and I might end up pulling back and going to somewhere else. But for the time being, it's been really dope. I've worked in Australia, Sweden, Singapore, Canada now. It's been a fun ride.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back, and thanks for just generally being here.
Thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, Matt, tell us a little about yourself and how you got into the game industry, and tell us a little about what you do.
All right, I'm Matthew Thurston. I got into the game industry kind of odd way. I started computer engineering on the East Coast at a small school called Clarkson University, all engineering. Then I ended up switching into it once I actually got a taste of game dev and seeing what people were doing at the school. And recently completed my master's over in San Francisco, also at the Academy of Art. Then I've been doing freelance and moved down closer to LA, and now I'm moving even further down, closer towards San Diego. But about 3 years of that. Mostly character work.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back. It's been a pleasure having you on before, so it's great to see you again. It's great to see all of you again. With that, wouldn't feel right to have a show with a bunch of game developers without having some game dev discussion. Let's start things off with fairly simple and with a pretty basic question about how you guys got into game dev and maybe where you're going. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about the path that you guys took to get into game development, and actually maybe tell us where you think you might want to go next with your career? Garret, do you want to start off?
Sure. I actually originally went to school to paint backgrounds for animations. I was really inspired by what was happening in Hollywood for like Star Wars to like Ghibli films and stuff with hand painted backgrounds because I thought it was super cool. So I went to school for that. Didn't really have it, at the academy when I first started going there. So I ended up transferring departments to the games department because I took one class on 3D modeling. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I need to do more of this. And I was an avid gamer at that time still. And so I was like, I have the chance to do this. So I did. I pulled the trigger and I literally tried to do everything I could, from, programming to character to environments to technical art, lighting. It was like, if I can get my hands on a class, I'll be in that seat on Monday. And then I graduated and I've just, I've kept with it. And, I've been doing freelance, but I'd like to, transition into an actual studio. I would love an indie studio because I think I would learn a lot, get my ass kicked, learn with all the problems that come with that. But AAA studio would be fun too. Whichever comes first, I guess.
Awesome. Now, what kind of areas are you like interested in focusing on in the future? And what would you say are some steps you're going to take to, I guess, focus on those?
I really focus on materials, like texturing and materials, and creating those materials from like baking material meshes and whatnot. So I think doing a lot of like the material contests and kind of when I'm trying to problem solve some of the stuff that games currently have with materials and trying to make realistic materials that are cost effective in engines and stuff has always been something that I've always enjoyed doing. As well as like making really interesting scenes with those materials. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Thank you. Thanks a bunch for sharing. And I know that there's going to be a little more discussion going into this later on. I just wanted to sort of get the ball rolling with sort of discussion of where people have been and how they got to where they are. And speaking of how people got to where they are, and what their next steps are, what you might be planning for the future, Doug, why don't you tell us about some of the ways. Some of the things that you did to get into the game industry and where you'd like to progress and maybe some of the ways that you think would be the best to do that.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually working on games was sparked very early on. Basically, ever since I played, old Nintendo games, I was like, I want to do this, but I don't know what. It took until the era of Morrowind and the Star Wars X-Wing series before I got into modding games. I think I shared that story before, but my first mod was literally just editing a config file to make the Super Star Destroyer flyable in X-Wing Alliance, completely destroying everything. But eventually found out, hey, this is starting to be something you can go to school for. So once I got back from 29 Palms, I went to the Art Institute for Game Art and Design. It was like the pioneer class of that at my particular school. So very kind of disjointed and guinea pig approach to that education. So largely ended up having to learn a lot on the outside, which I found is, routine throughout the industry. You do a lot of learning on the outside of daily work. But out of my portfolio show, got hooked up with a contract with Boss Key. So I did a couple of sets of work for Lawbreakers. Eventually wound up at Epic, contracting as a software tester for the engine. And about 6 months in, I was moved up to an analyst. And I've been doing that for about the past year and a half. January will actually be 2 years. Going forward, it's one of those things like I am definitely modeling and environment work is my passion, and I still do it at home. I just have the deep problem of starting massive projects and then getting like 5 or 6 pops done and going, oh God, where do I go from here? But progress. progress it's making. But eventually, I hope to kind of work my way back into prop and environment artistry. I'm going to keep doing that as long as I'm in the industry, even if it's out of the hobby. And the other fields, one thing that I've definitely seen while I've been at Epic is producers are freaking magic. Like, don't know how they do what they do. I've worked with some amazing ones, but production is also something that has kind of piques my interest. So something else I might be looking at down the road.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I've worked with some really incredible producers in the past and some not so great ones. But I have found that when a producer is good, they are a facilitator for you. They are someone there who's there to champion you having enough time to do what you do. So, I mean, in my opinion, more artists should be looking into getting into things like production and management roles, just because they understand how much time it takes and how, what the pipeline is like, and they can sort of plan in a more educated way around that type of thing. So, I mean, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see more people getting into that because it would make my job easier.
Yeah, that's how I got into the position I am as the content manager for Heroes Hype. I was editing video, and then they just needed more organization and someone to drive it. And then they were like, "Hey, Garret, you seem to be good at this. Here you go." I was like, "Okay." So I've been doing that. And then you're right. It's something that I felt made a big impact, having somebody just not so hands-on, just making sure like everything was going well and communication was going well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the communication is absolutely a huge thing. And if somebody's not a very good communicator, sure, they're not going to be a great producer, right? So, Emil, you've had a bit of a storied history in game development, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into things and maybe some of your history? And then you did mention that you might want to pursue something indie-focused later on, and maybe tell us a little about that as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's weird. I've definitely had a really long and windy road. Initially, I wanted to be an astronomer. I didn't even want to get into games. I just enjoyed playing games as a kid. Never really thought it was a job. Then got into computers randomly, and then from there, kind of stemmed into doing like network engineering and fixing like general IT stuff for computers, and did a course for that and got into graphic design. And then from graphic design, I did a course in that and discovered 3D. And then from there, I was like, holy shit, okay, there's a whole world ahead of me. And I've like the same as Doug as well. Like I've done like a little bit of random modding and poking around with just the internals of games. I think like one of my first forays into that would be maybe like making Duke Nukem 3D maps. Just playing with the old build engine, and holy crap, that was so much fun. I would just make maps all the time, and I would go to school with like a floppy disk and hand them out to friends. I'm like, hold on, let's play this. And then we would connect via 56K modem and spend all night actually just play testing my maps. And then just general modding through that. Like even the original GTA, we modded all the vehicles to make them faster, slower, and things like that. And also trying to change some of the sprites around. And I think it was just one of those things where it was just fun to do. I never thought that it would be a job that I would actually get into, up until I took that really weird path that eventually took me to where I wanted to go. So it's kind of interesting to sort of see how like people kind of get there. A lot of the time it's not necessarily an obvious choice. It was just like I kind of stumbled into this. Some people, I think it's more common these days for people to sort of go, yeah, I really want to get into games, because there's just so much available out there in terms of like tutorials or software, schools. Like when I was getting into it, there were no schools for game dev. The only school was literally getting a job and doing it, or like being a part of like a mod team and modding like the original Half-Life engine and making something, or using like Milkshake 3D and all this sort of weird shit that was out there. But in terms of where I kind of see myself, like I have a few paths open at some point. It's either just staying where I'm at and obviously progressing within that chain and trying to get better with my art, and ultimately maybe like 5 to 10 years down the track, end up in an art director seat and kind of do that. But right now I'm really enjoying being in the trenches and actually creating content. and there's still a lot to learn. And I feel like with my new job at Warner Brothers, I'm going to be learning a whole lot. But then there's also the talk of maybe even pulling back to freelance or doing some indie stuff, where getting together with a few other devs who are kind of like also sick of the AAA scene and want to just kind of do their own thing and see how that goes. But you do hear, you know, some horror stories from time to time where people go, yeah, I'm sick of AAA. I'm getting 5-6 people together. Let's make a game. And then they just want to kill themselves after like a 2-year production of no sleep and trying to get this game out there, living off ramen noodles and having no money and being broke. And then you put your game out there and everybody hates it. And it's like, oh, that's great. So it's kind of like a weird thing. So yeah, like I do have a few paths available. Now it's just a matter of choosing which I feel like is going to be the best one. But ultimately right now, I think my goal is to just improve on my artwork a whole lot. I feel like I've been quite stagnant the last few years, and a lot of that has come down to the projects I've been a part of. And finally, I'm on a really creative project where I'm actually going to get to do a lot more hands-on art stuff and less management, which is what I've done previously in the past at Ubisoft. So I think that's going to definitely level me up significantly and hopefully just stick to more personal work as well in my spare time.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And Matt, what about you? Can you tell us a little about like your sort of journey that took you to where you are, and maybe where you want to go, and maybe how you want to get there?
All right. So like I said, with the like engineering school at first, I kind of found ZBrush in a back lab that they call the advanced lab. It had 4 computers. I think this was back in like 2014, 2013. But this 30 minutes from Canada over in New York, I found ZBrush, and I'm like, I think this is something I can use. Went through the program, did my own little custom UI thing, and eventually passed through that program, which was also kind of a new just test program at the school. Had only just started out, so I got like a run through animation and basic programs like Maya and After Effects. But then I decided, after seeing some of the contest stuff from like the Blizzard and Riot one, or I think it was Blizzard, I saw the Academy of Art, so I just up and packed everything up in the span of that year and flew west. So I'm only one in my family that went west and got into it. And then a friend of mine offered, after I'd finished at my master's up there, to move down here closer to Los Angeles. So that's when I just said, well, screw it, and moved down this way. So it's been a lot of chances, and I feel like a lot of like me getting better at art came from kind of the Twitch creative community getting started up, and Discord, different little groups meeting at people that inspired me to get into it, like Gilberto Magno and his workshop there, and just little, because a lot of times in school you get the general run of things, but you don't really get like a true, this is from a character artist. So a lot of that. Yeah. And the QBrush Art War, the contest now that they're having like monthly, bi-monthly on ArtStation, all that, just any time that I'm not working on, or just try to keep going with the personal work. So, and collabing with other artists, like the one I mentioned on the 19th there that used to do like stuff for WildStar and all that, just trying to find our own little personal projects. So it could lead, I mean, I would like to still get the experience in a studio instead of just freelance set rate, to kind of be in the trenches, so to speak, and see. But if not that, then try to make our own little thing, because we've been talking about it like, I don't want to say like a boutique, but you know what I mean? Like Ironclad, or one of those where it's a set of artists, concept artists, 3D artists, and we kind of have that protection from getting work and also being able to work on what projects we decide.
That's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I know that for myself, I'm certainly interested in doing something smaller like that. And maybe, 5-10 years down the road, maybe starting something like an outsourcing studio that just focuses on, sort of serving the types of clients that would be producing the types of things that I would want to work on anyway. I know that I work with a lot of people. I have worked with a lot of people who are interested in that type of thing, getting together, forming sort of some business centered around all the things that we're good at, and maybe just ignoring the actual game development side and just focusing on the art side because, it's what everybody's interested in. We don't necessarily want to make a game. We just want to like make the art for it because that's cool and fun.
It's like the hoops and the bugs that you don't want to jump through. You just want to get back into the programs.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to kind of get into the art or get into like making something that looks cool. Not necessarily making, say, like a dude in a suit all the time or like a sports guy all the time or something.
Sports guy.
Yeah, just yeah.
I just want to second what Matt said about having an instructor who's like a legitimate professional in this industry. Actually, like my most effective instructor was like a 30-year veteran of Disney, like from way back when they hadn't even started like 3D modeling. Like she was one of their first 3D modelers and Imagineer and all this stuff. And like having someone like that to constructively tear your stuff apart is
constructively destroy you.
Yes. Yeah. It is such a helpful thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and definitely for anyone who like wants to get into game dev, I like find a mentor or a group of mentors or just a community who will constructively tear your stuff down and help you rebuild it. Like that's the big thing. Like help you rebuild it, not just
or like direct you towards other resources. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like when I was going to school, I was starting to learn about materials and stuff like that. I didn't know half of what I was even supposed to know. And one day, Andrew Maximov actually came to our school just to talk to one of my teachers and stuff. And he gave like a short presentation on PBR right before Unreal 4 came out. Literally like a month before it came out. And I was just floored. It's just like, how can you have this much knowledge of like the creative aspects of like applying the technical points of an engine and just be able to casually just pull that out of thin air. So I was like, and he helped me a lot in just answering questions. And then he's like, if you have any other questions, just like add me on Facebook. And I was like, okay.
Oh yeah.
And
Andrew's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy and he's probably one of the smartest people I know. Granted, I don't know him super well, but from all the times that I've met him, it's just you can kind of like feel it. It just kind of like radiates off him. This guy is like, he's so smart and he's so creative and he's sort of got his thumb on the pulse of everything that's going on tech wise in the industry, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
I think we all have one of those people. Like mine for me is Tor Frick for 3D artistry.
Yeah.
He is him and Warren Marshall are two people I follow like their art religiously, and they're just like every time they post something new, I'm just like, well, okay, I'm done.
I have a library on ArtStation of just like the people that are incredible that I try to follow, because they'll come up with the silliest stuff. Like one of them came up with like how a substance for a fried egg.
Oh, I saw that one.
I think
yeah.
Did you do like the fish and stuff like that too, or is that a different?
No, I think that's from the same person. Yeah, and it's just it's
dead
like
fish substance.
Yeah. It's funny talking about Tor Frick. The first time I actually met Tor Frick was at GDC. It was at the Marmoset party.
Same,
and I was helping hand out the Marmoset t-shirts, and he came by, and I had never seen him before in my entire life. I'd only seen his work, never like a picture of him. So when he came by, he like said hi to me because we knew each other online, and I was like, "Hi, here's your shirt," and just kind of like brushed him on because I was like, I don't know who the hell this person is. And then he came up to me later, and I put all the pieces together, and I was like, oh my god, I feel so stupid. Here's this guy whose work I've seen for years, and man.
Yeah, but he's super nice though. He probably would have just been like, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
he's like the most gentle kind of timid, light voiced kind of guy, but yeah, he's super dope.
Well, he's also super jacked.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
He's swole as fuck. Yeah.
Oh man, actually, yeah. Last GDC, he was there with a group of his crazy Nordic folk, and like one of them was this also super jacked guy, but he was wearing like this red suit. It was just amazing. They all looked like super villains, but they were all super nice. It's incredible, just incredible.
Yeah, that's sweet. They're always just like really nice people.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys wanted to mention before we sort of get into the game and start getting our nerd on a little bit here?
What did you talk about?
All right, and we're back. Just had to briefly fix some video stuff, but with that, I think we're about ready to get into our game. So let's talk a little bit about the characters you guys are going to play for this this fun little session that we're going to be doing. Garret, I believe you had contacted me just earlier today about the character you're playing. So tell us a little bit about this, whatever he is.
I'm playing a half-elf paladin named Dave, spelled Dayve.
Of course.
He is the youngest son of a noble who went to join the Holy Army of Torm to do that kind of fun stuff, and then he has ended up on his own, traveling around, kind of just being as paladins kind of end up doing, adventuring. And yeah.
Well, that sounds perfect. And Doug, what about you? I believe you're returning with a character you've had before.
Yes, Sayet, the female server dragonborn. She is a avid student of the energies of life and death and how one tends to use these when versed in magic to both heal and take life, as it were. Not fond of taking life, but she'll do it if necessary. She's also a bit resourceful. She's had a bit of a checkered past, so she will do things the typical scholarly wizard normally wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Emil, what about you? What kind of class are you playing?
I'm bringing old Tobin, the beardless dwarf, back.
All right.
From last session as well.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I know. He's really upset about it. He just can't grow facial hair. He just hates it.
Perfect.
Yeah, outside of that, yeah, like wasn't really too much more to it, but yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
good.
warlock as well, just in case anybody was unsure.
Awesome.
He's a warlock.
Yeah, we've already got an interesting party already. And Matt, what class are you playing?
I'm bringing back Warpit, who's a thief, rock gnome, and basically he's bald with geometric tattoos. Think like Ragnar, kind of looking with the beard. Tattered armor. He's got little sheath hoops all over the armor because he's crazy about swords instead of gold. So he'll go after weapons way before he sees like gold. Just throw it aside. He also really hates doors. Like just due to an isolated upbringing, he will freak out if they're mentioned. If they're locked, he'll try to either blow them up, pick them instead of picking the lock, even though he knows how, just because he's been traumatized. So. Yeah, that's my
did something bad in a past life to him, huh? Oof.
I just want to point out the irony of the beardless dwarf when everyone in this call has beards.
Yes,
I was going to make a comment on it earlier. I was like, is this Dungeons and Devs or
it's only the tree?
Beards?
I think it's just devs in dungeons with no shading.
Yeah. I think that's more accurate. Well, with all that in mind, I just have a couple of things that I want to mention. I try to mention these to basically anybody who I am DMing for. I have one guideline and one recommendation. The first guideline is if you're going to do something, just say, I want to do it. do it in first person. Just say, I want to do this thing, or I am doing this thing. If your character is going to get drunk, say, I am going to drink all of the dizzy juice in this place. If your character is going to be drunk and then go pee outside in the snow, say, I'm going to go pee outside in the snow. That is something that happened in a game yesterday. That's why I bring it up. Anyway, just refer to things in the first person. It makes things a little snappier, it goes a little faster, and it's just generally a little more natural to say I rather than my character or my character's name. So it feels a little better. The recommendation I have is if there is a stupid decision that your character would make in the given situation, make that decision, because it's always more fun when people make the bad decision, the suboptimal decision, because it always leads to the more interesting and fun results.
Don't try to meta it, just do it.
Yes, don't try to metagame. Just kind of go with it. Just let it happen and do something stupid, because it's a game.
Today's a good day.
Yeah, it's a game. We're having a good time. It's all about fun. I'm probably going to be breaking a bunch of rules and stuff in the name of just making things faster and more fun. So if you think that there is something stupid your character would do, given whatever, just go for it. Just go for it. It's more fun that way. But with that, I think we're ready to get into our little game of D&D. So,
and there's the menace.
Yes, the Adventurers Guild. You've all heard of the Adventurers Guild. You've all been in the Adventurers Guild for a little while, not too long. You're all kind of low level in the organization. You guys have come into it from various different backgrounds, very evidently. But it all sort of fits into your wheelhouse. It's a very large guild. It stretches across multiple countries, multiple continents even. It's a very rich guild and very well equipped. There are different levels of membership, obviously, considering you guys are fairly low level. And being low-level adventurers, a lot of the time you're just kind of stuck with shitty jobs. Just because nobody who is, say, in the higher ranks would really want to go and, clean up a sewage spill or be a bodyguard for a guy who sells bread. Those are not things that seasoned adventurers would do, but there is a call for it. There is money in it, so often you guys, being fairly low level, are saddled with those tasks. And today is no different. Today is no different at all. Bailey, the guildmaster for the Adventurers Guild here in the city of Villamire, a rather portly, usually drunken man, has taken it upon himself to give you guys some experience, some real-world experience. So he has sent you off to the very large, sort of Victorian-looking mansion of old Mrs. Gladstone. Now, Mrs. Gladstone has a bit of a reputation in the city of Villamire. She is the last of a line of very, very rich people. But she is also a cat lady. She is seriously a cat lady. She's the only person alive in her mansion, as far as anyone knows. But she is not the only living thing there. Word has it that she has not just a few cats, she has all the cats. She has actually depleted the population of cats in the city of Villamire to the point where if you see one out on the street, it's probably because it escaped from her mansion. So, coming down the street towards old Mrs. Gladstone's mansion, you can see it off on the left. It kind of sticks out from the buildings around it. Most of the buildings around it look like they kind of belong in, maybe a small Italian city or something like that. They're large, almost apartment block type arrangements that have, just straight up and down walls. They're usually about 3 stories high, and they have, terracotta roofs and that type of thing. But Mrs. Gladstone's mansion is, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It looks like a Victorian mansion that takes up almost an entire block. The space that this mansion is sitting on is actually raised up from the street level by about a good 5 or 6 feet, and there are steps going up. The outer grounds of this mansion are covered in a surprisingly well-kept lawn. It appears that Mrs. Gladstone does have gardeners who come by, and maybe she has other staff, though as far as you guys know, as far as anybody knows, she doesn't actually have anyone else living there. The grounds of the mansion are surrounded by a fairly low iron fence. It's all black wrought iron, and there's a gate out front which doesn't appear to be locked, just has a little latch on it, with stone steps leading up to the landing at the front door. The mansion itself has parapets on either side facing the street, and then a very tall peaked roof. And most of the windows appear to be very dark, even though it's midday, and you would expect that with how large the windows are, there would be at least a little bit of light, shining through or bouncing around in there or coming out. But no, most of them appear to be dark. You can even see some cobwebs in some of the windows. But yes, you approach Mrs. Gladstone's mansion, knowing full well she's a cat lady, and this is probably a shit assignment. The street is not super busy right now. It's around midday. People are about to start going out to eat lunch. What would you guys like to do?
Out of curiosity, were we told what the assignment is, or was it more just go to Lady Gladstone's house and help?
You were not actually told what the assignment was. Actually, all that Bailey was able to inform you was that Miss Gladstone required the assistance of some seasoned members of the Adventurers Guild. And being that you guys, are probably... He thinks you guys are the right people for the job, given that you're fairly low level in the organization. And, I mean, it's Mrs. Gladstone. She's an old cat lady, so it's probably nothing. But just in case, here you are.
Alrighty.
I'm going to start off just by giving past experience. I cast just Mage Armor on myself just to be careful, because after the last couple assignments, nope. So just see like little shimmer as I just mumble some words, and I'm just like, this is going to go to shit so fast.
I'm gonna walk up to the front where the stairs are and look up at the place and be like, see, this is my kind of a house. Not like this crap that they have us living in. Although it kind of smells funny.
And now that you mention that, yes, there is a very slight smell coming just sort of around the house. You do detect a slight hint of what smells probably like cat pee. There's a slight breeze, so it's not as bad as it could be, but seems the entire place is just sort of, it has a low-level scent about it.
Yeah.
A mild odor.
Yes.
Smells like home.
I'm going to turn around and look at everybody. Be like, well, let's get this over with, shall we? And like looking at everybody, go knock on the door, and like be as paladinly as possible, ready to the door for her.
All right, you guys just want to follow him up there?
I'm going to be following him, but behind him, like as far away from the edge of the door.
I'm staying at the rear of the pack.
All right.
I do have a sword, but that's away, and a shield.
All right, great. So as you walk up to the door and politely knock, you do see through the frosted windows on either side of the door, there is a little bit of movement down by the floor. It looks and looking a little closer, you can see that at least one cat was just sort of curled up by the windows, and it clearly feels a little offended that you have made some noise near it, and you can see that it lifts its tail up and whips it around as it goes walking off. You can't really see too far in, but you can see that much of the cat. After a few moments, you hear some shuffling behind the door, sort of a and you hear the latch being unlocked on the door, and the door pulls open just a couple of inches, and down maybe 4 feet off the ground, you see a very wrinkly, pruny old woman's face poking around the edge of the door. And she's got these bright, beady little eyes and this sort of slightly frizzy white hair that's kind of framing her face. And she looks out the window, kind of squinting at you and at the rest of the group, and says,
Oh, you must be the group from the Adventurers Guild. Oh, it's so good to see you. Please, come in, please. Would you mind kicking off your boots in the house, please?
And she very, very carefully pulls the door open very slowly and sort of like pushes what looks like at least half a dozen cats away from the door, who are sort of swarming around her feet. And she's being very, very careful, not letting them get out the doors, but it looks like a lot of them are trying to. She's like,
oh, please come in as quick as possible. We don't want the babies to get out.
I'll try to, like, in full armor, shuffle my way through the door, like looking around the place as I enter. And has she already like let us in, or is she just like trying to block the cats?
Yeah, she's trying to sort of block the cats as you guys are sort of shuffling in the small gap that she's allowed to be opened. She's sort of like herding the cats behind her with one hand and holding the door with the other. Do a perception check for me as you're entering.
Perception's wisdom, right?
Yeah, that so that will be
Yep, it is wisdom.
Yes, wisdom. So it looks like you have a +4 in that.
I actually critted.
Oh, well, perfect. So looking around you, as you're sort of angling in here, you do get a really good look at this sort of foyer area that you've entered, and the first thing that strikes you is not the sight, but the smell. Everything smells like cat pee. It's really bad. It seems that despite how actually very clean this entire room that you're in looks, it smells very strongly like cats have just been living in here for years. And there's just this overwhelming scent of just really, really bad urine that pervades everything.
But it smells of all underlined the pee.
All the pee, yes. And looking around, you can see that the interior of this mansion that she lives in is quite extensive. Even just looking from the foyer here, there is beyond the foyer there is a small coat room, and then beyond that there is a large sort of square, not quite a ballroom, but it has a large staircase going up to the second floor with a landing up there. And there's a bit of light filtering in from up above, though you can see just by looking a little bit that there are a lot of cobwebs in the windows on the second floor. And looking out into that room, which is probably maybe 20 feet square, there are dozens of cats just everywhere. Some of them are sitting on the stairs. Some of them are just kind of like walking around. You can hear cats meowing from nearby and from the distance. There's just cats as far as the eye can see. Everything seems very clean and well kept, but it still smells like pee, and there are just cats and more cats and more cats. And as you guys all manage to kind of shuffle into this foyer area, she closes the door behind you and sort of like leans against it or something, and she actually starts like counting all the cats in the room. As some cats walk by in the rooms beyond this foyer area, she actually, you can see she counts them too. And after maybe like 30 seconds of counting, she's like,
oh goodness, they're all here. Yes. All right, lads. And miss. So thank you so much for coming. I wasn't sure that Bailey was going to send his best, but he very clearly has. You all seem so well equipped. Oh, would you like some tea?
I could never pass up the offer of tea.
Oh, well, I could never pass up offering some tea. Please follow me.
And she kind of like toddles off, and you can see that she walks with a cane. She's maybe 4 feet tall. She's a tiny little woman. ancient looking, and she's a little bit portly. And she's got this frizzy mane of bright white hair, and she's wearing a shawl over her shoulders. And she occasionally like reaches down, not very far because she's so short, to pet some of the cats. And she's like, please, come with me. And she leads you off to through the coat room and off to the left in this large staircase area. Where you can see that there's a very nice sitting room with very fancy like armchairs and one central sort of like lounger chaise type of thing. It looks like she's got a lot of money, and a lot of that money was just like pumped into furniture and all kinds of other stuff. There are lots of nice paintings on the walls. There are very, very expensive gas lanterns that dot the walls just below the ceiling. But there's still that pervading smell of just cat pee everywhere. And she leads. Oh yes,
I was gonna say I suddenly realized that I'm starting to get a bit of a reaction to all the cats. My nose is starting to get a little
you have to roll to see if we're allergic to cats.
Sniffly and weird, and starting to get a little itchy.
Okay, good. I will certainly be keeping that in mind over the events that are going to be unfolding. As she leads you into this sitting room, she's like,
oh, please, come sit down. We have a lot to discuss. Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's such a terrible thing. But first, let me get you your tea.
And as you guys sit down, she just like toddles off and goes to the kitchen, and you can hear her like clanging around, getting a teapot, heating things up. And a good 15 minutes passes as she's like trying to heat up some water and doing some other stuff. Is there anything that you guys want to do while you're waiting for this old woman to get you some tea?
Well, I'm just a little bit uneasy since on my last adventure I was also in a house with an old woman, so I'm a bit skeptical of what's going on, and like a little bit unnerved by all the cats as well, and the reaction I am having to the cats. So I'm not really doing too much.
All right.
Biggest thing I'm doing, and this will be constant if you need me, is I'm using prestidigitation to like make the air around me not smell like cat pee, because as a dragonborn with a sensitive sense of smell, I'm dying over here.
All right.
So I'm just like holding a hand behind my back doing the components.
Yeah. All right.
Crawling around, like looking through the furniture, just checking through drawers, looking behind portraits, just sort of checking everything.
Just making sure there's no funny business.
No, just looking for stuff.
Okay. Do an investigation check.
Can I be watching him like search?
Oh yeah.
I'm watching you search.
Yeah, it's quite a look. He's like at one point he's actually like he kind of like climbs up onto this like dresser drawer type of arrangement, and he's like peeking behind a painting to see if there's anything interesting or hidden back there.
Is that wisdom too, or
investigation? That's going to be your intelligence.
Okay, that's a little bit better. 10.
So in this room, at least, it doesn't seem that there is anything like necessarily hidden. There are certainly no safes or like super valuable objects in here, though there is a small table with a drawer in the front, and as you pull it open, you can see that it has some like teaspoons and other little things that you would use if you were going to have some nice tea. They appear to be made of silver, but that's really the only valuable thing you can find aside from like the really expensive furniture.
Did she leave the cane?
No, she brought the cane with her. It seems like she really does need it to walk.
I'm just gonna take one of the spoons.
Okay. So you pocket a nice silver spoon.
Did I see him pocket the spoon?
Do a perception check. And were you trying to hide the fact that you were taking it?
Not really, no. It's just like I can do something with this.
I got an 8, so.
It looks like he probably like went to grab something, though you wouldn't necessarily see what. It was probably like you were probably staring at his back as he was like digging around in this drawer. So it looks like he might have taken something, but you're not really certain.
I'm just gonna lean back and just be like, well, leave the nice lady's stuff where it is. We don't need to make her day even more stressful than it already is.
Who needs like 6 spoons? It's just a spoon.
There's just one lady and a million cats. She needs 1 spoon, not 6.
No. Question.
I have no idea.
Is there anything odd with these cats?
Do a perception check.
Completely traumatized.
To paint this picture of me sitting on like whatever I'm sitting on, I'm in full gear with like a sword and shield. And this lady's tiny, so all the furniture probably fits her. So I'm probably like knees at my like throat, just
yeah.
In full gear.
18 perception check.
So you don't really notice anything terribly strange. There are a lot of black cats around. That's, I mean, really the only thing that specifically grabs your attention is there are like more black cats per capita than there are any other type of cat, but there are lots of different breeds of cat here.
I'm going to just say aloud to no one in particular, I feel like if we headed to Backseat, this might go a lot easier. The Backseat, the cat people.
So after... yes.
Oh, no, I'm good.
All right, so after several minutes of you guys just sort of poking around in this room, taking spoons, etc., she does come back with a tea tray. She's sort of like she's kind of like holding it while she's trying to walk with her cane and stuff, and she waddles into the room, and she's trying very, very carefully to walk around her cats as they just sort of like lay in her path. And at one point she kind of like steps over one, and it's this she lets out this kind of like as she's sort of like stepping over it and continuing to walk, and she brings this tray.
I feel bad for her, so I want to offer to help her with the tea because I feel bad watching this.
Oh, dearie, you're so polite. Thank you so much, dearie. Please, if you could just set this on the table right over there.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just yes, of course, and I'll take the tray and like carry it over the table so she doesn't have to hobble, dodge cats, and try to carry.
I'm just stuck in the chair. I can't even get up. I'm like trying to get up to help her because I'm, paladins are supposed to do good things. I'm just like, and then you're already like done. I'm just like, God damn, you're making me look bad.
I'm subconsciously kind of like backing slowly into a corner by like kind of looking around, dodging cats.
Yeah. Emil, do a Constitution saving throw.
Okay, here we go.
I'm going to be looking at the tray like, deja vu, and then try to take one of the teacups. No, I mean like to drink, not to steal.
Okay. Gonna say.
Are these like tiny teacups?
Oh yeah, they're maybe like like that big around. They're very very finely crafted, but yeah, like you have your pinky out and just like.
Rich people teacups.
12.
12. As this whole scene is unfolding across the room from you, these cats are not leaving you alone. Several of them are like rubbing up against your legs and stuff. And the more that you become aware of the cats, the more you also become aware of the fact that like you're just starting to kind of like itch and get uncomfortable. Your nose is starting to run. Your eyeballs are starting to itch and get red. And you can feel like the back of your throat starting to get scratchy. This is, it's real bad. There are cats everywhere. So as she starts serving you guys tea in these teeny tiny little cups, and she's got some little biscuits and stuff. She's like, toddling around and giving them to all of you on, little saucers and stuff. And she's like, oh, would you like cream? Would you like some sugar? Oh, some lemon for you. That type of thing. She finally grabs her own little teacup and, fixes it how she likes with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cream. And she sort of goes,
Oh, yes, well, you're from the Adventurers Guild. Yes, okay, well, I'm so glad that Bailey sent you folks. Oh, you do look so capable. Did I say that before? Oh, my goodness, I tend to repeat myself these days. Well, my name is Mrs. Gladstone. It's very nice to meet you. These are my sweeties, and you can see, over there is Philip, and there is Philip's sister, Miranda,
and she starts like naming all of the cats that are specifically in this room, and then she leans out to like the big main room, and she starts naming the ones that are in there, and she goes through about 50 different completely unique names. It seems that she knows every single one of these cats by heart, and yeah,
I'm like trying to memorize them because I think it's important, even though I'm failing dismally.
Oh yeah, there are way too many cats for anybody to keep track of, anybody sane at least. But she goes through this whole thing, and assuming you guys are being polite, you just kind of let her do her spiel. But she finally takes a break to take another sip of tea. Is there anything you want to?
Yes. So, not to be rude, thank you very much for the tea, but we were wondering what it is specifically you need help with.
Oh, I've completely forgotten. I'm so sorry, and this is just so cruel of me. I'm being a terrible cat mummy. Oh, that is some fine tea, isn't it? Oh, I do love me some black tea. Anyway, so, my poor Matilda is stuck in a tree in the courtyard. And I need some strapping young folks to go and rescue her from the tree. Matilda, she's such a scaredy cat. You would think that a cat like her would be, a bit more brave. But she's just hiding up there. She's so afraid, and I just don't know what to do. Perhaps you can go and get her down. Just be careful. I don't want the tree to get damaged. I wouldn't want Matilda to get hurt at all.
I just I look over at everyone else with one of those looks like, oh God. And I said, yes, if you could just point us to the tree.
Yeah, see, I don't even notice him looking around. I'm just like, don't even worry about it. We'll get your cat out of the tree. We'll be right on that, and you'll have your Matilda. Is it Matilda? Oh yeah. No,
oh yes, it's Matilda.
Hold on, and I pretty much just like roll out of the chair and onto the ground to like actually get back up. And it's like, all right, guys, let's go.
I'm like out of on the ground. I have like a half a cup of sugar, really, just all sugar, trying to like feed the cat. But as soon as he's like, we can go outside. Yep, I'm going. Yep.
Yeah, I'm as enthusiastic as possible to get the hell out of there. I'm just like, I have no idea what's happening. I'm like trying to get my boots on, trying to get out.
Hi, Miss Gladstone. If you'd be so nice to either show us or tell us how to get to the courtyard, because your house is not very small. That'd be a great help.
Oh, no, it is a lovely house, isn't it? I can give you the tour.
And she gets up and starts hobbling back towards the big main room.
She's like, oh, come with me. I can show you the 2 dining rooms. Each one was made by a different member of the family.
And she's just like hobbling off, just like doing this thing as she's just walking off, completely not even paying attention to you guys. She's just like in her own little world, chattering as she goes along.
I'm gonna, as she starts walking off, and be like, Miss Gladstone, I would love the tour as soon as we get Matilda out of that tree.
And she stops and she's like,
oh my goodness, Matilda's in the tree. Oh, I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry. These days my mind isn't what it used to be. Please follow me.
And she actually turns directly around and goes back down the hallway. And she starts leading you guys down this hallway. And it seems like there is a hallway that goes essentially around the entire perimeter of the house, sort of in like a square. and she leads you down past the small kitchen that she was just in, and as she's slowly walking, she starts telling you a little bit about like the history of the house, how it was built, her family members. She starts pointing at rooms and being like,
Oh, and this is where my sister was born. She was born right there on that fainting couch. You can still see the stains.
and she shows you like secondary staircases that go up and down. There's clearly a second story, and there's at least one basement. And she talks about how
they used to store all the meats and down there in the basement, but now it's just empty. It's just full of cobwebs, and I think something else, but whatever. Anyway,
she just keeps walking, and you guys work your way around the perimeter of the house. And she starts pointing out doors that are closed, and she's like,
oh, this is one of the special playrooms for the kitties. They only go in there when they're being very good.
And a little farther down, you see that there's one door that's locked, and it looks like there are holes. They look like holes that have been like either drilled or pounded in the plaster of the wall on either side of the door. And there's a little bit of old plaster dust on the floor on either side of this door, and there are a couple of large cracks going through the door. The door handle is actually bent at kind of a weird angle, and it looks like the door is sort of bowed outwards very slightly. And she keeps walking, and she's like,
oh, and that's the room where Matilda was born. The entire litter was born in there. It was quite a sight. Oh my goodness, that was back when my mama was just a little girl.
And she just keeps on walking. Finally, she gets to a point where there's another turn, and she's like,
oh, and we're almost coming to the courtyard now. Oh, this door. Never go inside this door. It's very dangerous in there.
And she just keeps on walking. And finally, you get to one last turn. At this point, you'd be facing the front of the house again. You came in sort of all the way around to the back of the house, and you can see that there is a hallway leading to a glass door with sort of divisions in it, almost like it's a window, and it swings out with outward into the courtyard. And you can see that in the courtyard, it seems very well kept. It's quite large, and the house is sort of like built around this courtyard in a square shape. And there is a large tree growing out of the center, a large oak tree. And approaching this door, there are still cats, swarming around your feet. And Emil, can I get you to do another Constitution saving throw?
Sure. Better this time, 14.
Yeah, so it seems that despite the fact that you were feeling really shitty before, it seems like you're kind of like, just the fact that you're moving now a little bit, you're sort of shoring up your defenses, but you're not sure how long it's going to last if you're in this space.
While
yes.
we've been walking and she's been rambling, I just want to point out whoever's like directly in front of me, which not sure who that would be, but as she's talking, I'm like doing this number in midair, like adding up numbers. And I'm like, wait a minute, born, her, like, yeah. I'm just gonna tap the person in front of me on the shoulder and go, I told you, and I'm just like whispering. I'm just like, there is no way this is a normal cat. I told you this was gonna go to shit. That cat has got to be 80 years old.
Yeah, we'll say it's me in front of you. I'll just turn around and be like, yeah, how old is Miss Gladstone to say that Matilda is as old as her mom?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little worried about this one. Like, still walking around, but I'm just like, I'm telling you.
Guys.
Gonna be like, I passed 80 years ago.
She might not be stuck in a tree. The tree might be, stuck in with her. I don't know.
Yeah, but I was just like a retroactive. It's just, I just want to make sure I pointed that out to someone, being like,
There's something up with this cat, to say the least. All right.
I sneeze.
You do indeed. And as you sneeze, the cats around you sort of like shrink back, almost like a wave, and then start coming back to you and rubbing against your legs again as you're walking. And as Miss Gladstone leads you towards the doors, just chattering incessantly, she finally gets to the glass door and she's like,
Well, this is where I think that I should go back and have some more tea. I'm getting very parched, and I think this is a good place for you brave folks to take over. Matilda's just up there in the tree, and she won't come down for anything. I've left some food out there. I even managed to catch one of the rats that lives in the basement and toss it out there, but she didn't come down for that. She doesn't like rats. I don't know how to get her down, but I'm gonna go back and have some tea. Is that all right with you?
We'll be right back with Matilda.
Oh, you're lovely.
I wonder, like, you said this was like kind of a glass windowed area.
Yeah, there's a glass door that's like divided into squares with wooden slats, and on either side there's glass, and you can see out in the doorway, out into the courtyard. It's a pretty large courtyard, maybe 50 by 50 feet, and yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, before she wanders away, I want to look outside the door and see if I can see whatever she's calling a cat in the tree.
Do a perception check.
Okay, 16.
You look out there and you see there is a tree. It's a very large oak tree that has all of its leaves still on it. So you can see the trunk and some of the lower branches, which are very large, but you can't really get a good impression for anything that's actually inside the tree just because there are so many leaves in the way. You can see out there that there are more black cats sort of hanging out around the base of the tree. There are other cats out there as well, but they seem to be sticking to the sort of perimeters. But it's mostly black cats that are centered around this tree. And they're all sort of like lounging down there.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to do?
Not me. I'm just not liking this more and more.
I'll just, after saying like goodbye to her, that she's going to go get the tea, I'll open the glass door and like walk out into the courtyard.
Okay.
And start looking around.
Sure. Yeah, do a perception check as you get out there.
I'm gonna run out behind him.
Okay.
Just
I
like,
got a 9.
Yeah, it's given how large this tree is, it's one of those oak trees that is almost like a huge dome of leaves, and a lot of the branches actually sort of arch down. It's very difficult to see up into the tree just because with all the shadows being cast from the leaves, it's very dark up in there. You do see the same thing that Doug saw. There are a lot of black cats clustered around the base of this large oak tree.
How big are the black cats?
They look about normal cat size.
Normal house cat size?
Yeah, about.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to grab one of the cats and just like
One of the black
set
cats?
it on my head. Yeah.
Okay. Do a dexterity check to see if you can actually catch one of these things.
I
21.
think it. Oh, there
Oh,
you go.
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So as one
Sorry,
of
I've been muting it through Skype.
Oh yeah. So as one of these cats is sort of slowly approaching you guys to just kind of like sniff around, it's pretty clear that you're unfamiliar to them. So this one's coming to kind of investigate and see if it can maybe get a treat or something. You manage to just like grab it and snag it by the scruff of the neck and hold it. What are you doing?
I was kind of setting it on my head like for no reason.
Okay. So as you
still holding on to
as
it,
you
though.
try to set this thing on your head, its claws sink into your scalp and it starts hissing at you and starting to scratch the top of your head. It seems very, very unhappy with its current situation.
Be hissing back at it.
Okay.
What in the hell is wrong with you?
What?
I'm looking at you and I'm just going, what in the hell is wrong with you? Put the cat down.
You're like,
I'm just laughing.
This is normal. This is normal. But then I'll set it back down.
Like, that cat's gonna rip you a new one.
So as you're holding onto this thing, I need you to do a strength saving throw to see if you can actually keep a handle on this thing that is furiously scratching the top of your head.
I said it after he did that. I set it down.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. You set it down and it instantly runs to the oak tree and just like runs up the side and up into the lower branches. You can actually hear it hissing at you and going. And as this thing starts hissing and making that sort of low guttural cat sound, all the rest of these cats around the base of the tree they look like they're starting to get uncomfortable. They're all starting to look at you now, and some are glancing up at their friend in the tree. And they all start to get into more active positions. Some are starting to walk back and forth, pacing. Their tails sort of whipping back and forth. Some of them have their ears down and they're sort of staring at you. The cat up in the tree is still letting out that sort of sound that cats do when they're starting to get really annoyed. And as it continues to make this sound, you start to hear something else. Something that's almost harmonizing with it. This starts to not be replaced by, but augmented by something a little lower.
Harley Davidson in the courtyard.
Everybody do a perception check.
Oh, dear.
Say everybody.
Everybody.
I'm gonna call out to Matilda as I'm doing it.
Okay. What are you saying?
Just like, Matilda, here, kitty, kitty. I rolled a 10.
All right. Doug?
17.
Emil?
14.
And Matt? Oh.
Keep doing that. Sorry. 2.
Yeah. So
I see nothing.
Yeah, you have a little trickle of blood coming down from your forehead that's getting in your eye, so it's kind of getting in the way anyway.
You're like, nice cat.
Garret, you can't really see anything just because of where you're standing, but both Emil and Doug see some movement up in the tree. Something in addition to that cat that ran up there. It looks like something moving in the shadows, almost like a shadow itself. And it's difficult to track, not just because of the thick leaves that are in the way, but almost as if it's skipping from place to place. It definitely has a path that it's following, but it's not following a smooth path. It's almost like it appears in one place, appears in the other, and continues to do that as it gets lower and lower in the tree, almost spiraling down the branches in the tree, moving from large branch to large branch. And it just looks like a shadow being cast on the leaves as opposed to any sort of actual object or creature.
How far up would you say this is from us?
It starts from about 20 feet up and is starting to steadily get lower. The lowest branches of the tree are maybe 5 feet off the ground, and they're very, very thick, and they branch off very quickly.
I'm going to suggest, seeing this thing come down, I'm going to very quietly suggest our job was to get it down. That thing's coming down. I propose we move towards the door very quickly.
I'm gonna.
Because I don't like what's going on out here.
I'm going to cast Shield of Faith on myself and step back and ready.
All right. What else are you guys doing? Anything else?
I sneeze and stand my ground.
All right.
I'm gonna be like, well, that was a bad idea, but gonna start playing the music box. Wait, what was it? The music? I have something of music. I have no idea.
I don't recall what that was that you had. I do recall that. I just don't recall the exact specifics. Regardless, you cast Shield of Faith on yourself, and as this thing is moving, it keeps going. And as it starts to move down, you start to get a better look. It is a cat-like shape. This shadow starts to move into some of the dappled sunlight that just barely comes through to the lower branches. It comes to one of the lowest branches, one of the thickest ones, about a good foot or foot and a half thick, and it stops. And you can see that it's some sort of hunched form. And even looking at it, standing there, it's hard for your eyes to focus on it. It's almost as if it's in two places at once. It's almost as if you have double vision looking at this thing. And as it stands there, you just barely get the impression that it has a sort of cat-like form. And it opens its eyes and directs them towards you, directly towards all of you. And there are these bright yellow pinpricks of light that shine out, staring all of you down. And it lets out one more sort of guttural. And as it does this, you can see that shapes separate from its back, almost as if they're these shadowy tentacles. And it finally hops down from this lower branch, and you can see flickering in its space, there is a six-legged jaguar-like animal, larger than a normal jaguar. It's at its shoulder. It's about 4 feet high, and springing out from its shoulder blades on its back are these large snaking tentacles with spikes and small mouths on the end that undulate back and forth. And the black cats at the base of the tree sort of swarm around its feet as it slowly prowls towards you. Low, guttural, grinding sounds coming from its chest and throat.
I cast Fly on myself, and I shoot up.
And that's where we're going to take a quick break to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, and we'll come back in just a couple of minutes.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty, and we're back from our short little break. We've all had a chance to get some water, go to the bathroom, that type of thing. And let's bring things back in with a little bit more discussion. On that, this is a question that I've asked another group, and they had some interesting stuff to say. And I think you guys will have, coming from different backgrounds, I think you guys will have more interesting input. So, what are some things that you guys, as people of various different backgrounds and experiences, have seen people doing, people who are early in their career or who are looking to get into the game industry? What are some things that you've seen them do that might maybe on the surface appear to be, say, savvy business decisions or good practice that you think maybe aren't as useful as they potentially think they could be? This could be anything from, practicing art to maybe networking or going to events like GDC. Is there something that strikes you as something that's a fairly common thread that you maybe advise people against if they want to build better contacts or get into the game industry?
I'm piggybacking off of networking because I think that's one of the biggest things is a lot of people that go to at GDC, at PAX, at BlizzCon even, where you're going to be interacting with developers and stuff. A lot of people that are new and kind of greenhorns, so to speak, getting into it, they go to these events like the Polycount meetup, the Epic party, and everywhere in between, you know, from a meetup to a party. And they go there to be like, here's my portfolio, give me a job. And it's like, even if they don't say, give me a job, like putting your portfolio in front of somebody at a networking event, unless it's literally an event for portfolio reviews, is the fastest way to have someone not care at all. Versus like some of my best, most lasting relationships and friendships and who have helped me grow as an artist, as well as gotten me other contacts and other chances and opportunities and stuff, came from joking about like Dark Souls and board games and just getting to know them. Because when you go to these events, like everybody there works in the industry, everyone there has done portfolio reviews, but like meeting somebody and going up to them and being like, hi, you don't know who I am. I may or may not know who you are, but I'd like to get to know you. What do you do? You know, those kind of questions. But then instead of like following up with like, you know, what industry relevant stuff, it's like find some common ground of something that you both enjoy and that's fun. It's like speed dating. You gotta like not be like, hey, you wanna do the do. It's like you need to try to get to know them, even though you're gonna only spend like an hour hanging out with in the crowd. But so many people go to these events thinking that they're gonna treat it like a portfolio review and they're gonna get a job out of it. And it's like, you might get a job out of it if they like you and you become friends with them and they help you because they have those contacts, but not if you walk up and like, hi, I'm a sophomore in college. Here's my portfolio. I know you're hanging out with your friends, but like.
Yeah, totally. To like add another perspective to that, like I definitely agree. Like the approach is definitely really important. I usually expect going into parties like that's what I'm going to see anyway. And a lot of the time I will request to look at a folio rather than someone bombard me with it. Yeah. So I would rather build that little rapport and be like, oh, okay, this is what you do. Yeah, awesome. Oh, do you mind if I look at your stuff? As opposed to, you know, like, hey, how you doing? Oh, cool. Here's my iPad. Check it out. And it's like, oh, great. Like I was having a discussion just now with a bunch of friends. I wanted to chill out. So it's, definitely one of those things like, you find that common middle ground and eventually, you'll build that up. And maybe you might not even show your folio this time round, but then you end up with a contact and you end up talking on Discord or Skype or Facebook or something. And then you happen to click one of their links to their ArtStation. You're like, oh, holy shit, your stuff's pretty dope, man. Like, hey, my studio's hiring. We're looking for someone. Are you interested? So, it's definitely like having the correct approach when networking is to know when's a good time to throw your folio at somebody's face and when it's the time for someone to request your folio to be thrown into their face.
Yeah. It's like have it ready, but hidden.
And like it's also important to have it ready as well, because there'll be a time where someone will be like, kind of look at your stuff and you just like, I've been in a situation where I'm like, I wish I could show you some stuff. I just don't have anything right now to show you. And if you want to do is pull out your phone and be like, hey, look, I got some stuff on ArtStation and it's
just like tiny little.
If anything, have your computer, but don't bring it to those events. Like if you're at GDC and they are doing portfolio reviews, then have a computer. Don't have this little tiny thing.
If you're at a party and someone asks you, like always, if you want someone to see your portfolio, wait for them to ask you or be like, hey, don't bring your portfolio with you. Like just straight up, if you're going to a party or a mixer, you're going to get to know people or to have fun. Not to get your portfolio reviewed. Honestly, just don't bring it. Bring business cards. That's about it. And then if someone asks,
I would almost disagree about the business cards because every time I go, I've been given a stack, and literally the second I leave GDC, stack goes straight into the bin. Unless there was someone that I looked at their folio specifically and was like, "Holy shit, I want to keep in touch with this person."
I mean, personally, I only give out business cards when people ask for them.
Sure. Okay.
I'm not just being like, hey, can we trade business cards? It's like, you know, if someone asks for it, or if I go, hey, can I get your business card so that I can email you to get more feedback on something, that's different. So yeah, there has to be a necessity for the business card trade. But like if you go to a party and someone is, and you want to get, your end goal is to get your portfolio looked at. I mean, that shouldn't be your end goal, but if it comes up that they want to see your portfolio and you're at something like GDC, ask to meet with them the next day in front of the convention and at a park near the convention. Sometimes at the convention, specifically GDC, I know for a fact they have that back like food area. You can have the reviews there. The party isn't the place to do it. One, there's a good chance you can't even hear each other. Two, you might, either one of you or both are totally shit-faced. And then three, just don't do it. It just doesn't ever translate well. Even if it's the best experience possible, it doesn't translate well versus like, this is what I do. I'm talking to them, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you know what you're doing. They like you enough that they want to give you a portfolio review, or you like the person enough to give them a portfolio review. You can always do it later. You can always do it online even. So you don't have to do it at a party. And don't go to a party thinking it's going to get you a job. If you think if you're going to a party to try to get a job, just don't go to the party.
I found that when I go to GDC, the best way that I've found, at least for me personally, and I know it's going to sound crazy in a second when I explain it, but I've found that the best way for me to essentially interact with people I've never met before at, say, like the polycount party or something, has been to literally walk up to groups of people who are standing there talking, looking like, I don't know anybody here, and literally go up to them and say, "Hi, I don't know any of you. I'm Xavier. Nice to meet you. What do you guys do?"
Me, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I am sure that I have done that to several people who I will later end up working with or something. But yeah, like I literally will go up to people, say, "I don't know you. I don't know anything about you, but what do you do?" I'm not. I mean, sure, like it's great to see Emil in person and, hang out and stuff. But I mean, there's also the rest of the convention for that, because we end up hanging out in a lot of the same places. Or like my boss, Gavin Golden, he's, he was there. I didn't say a single word to him at the polycount party this last GDC because I see him every day. So, the point is not to go there and to see him. I might tap his drink and then keep walking or something. The point for me is to go up to people I don't know and find out about them. Because I'm curious. I want to know who these people are. How did they find out about the party? Clearly, if they're at the party, they're there. They should be there for, art reasons or something, because, that's what Polycount and Marmoset and all that stuff are about. Occasionally you get other situations happening, like at this past GDC, but we'll not go there.
I left after an hour, so I don't know.
Yeah, Emil knows what I'm talking about. We'll not go into that. I heard
it was fun.
Yeah,
I heard it was fun.
Interesting things happened, but I mean, the entire reason that I go to those parties is literally just to talk to people and like essentially make new friends. And it is absolutely exhausting, and it's terrifying because I am going there. I'm like this introvert person who just wants to hide in his little dark art cave all day. But, at a certain point, I'm not going to meet anybody new in my field who is interesting by just sitting in my art cave all day. So I have to go out there and like make myself that weird, vulnerable person who's being like, okay, I don't know you, but hey, let's talk. And it's actually led to some really cool interactions in a lot of cases, including cases where it turned out they were somebody whose work I already admired, who I didn't even realize it because I'd never seen a picture of them. I'd only ever seen their their work online. Tor Frick being a really good example from earlier. I didn't know what he looked like at all. All I knew was that people talked about him being super jacked and Swedish, and
he's huge, and good.
And I know that he makes awesome art. But then when I later found out that there was already like a way for me to just be like, hey, you're a person and I want to talk to you because I'm interested in talking to you, talking with you, as opposed to just being like, will you look at my stuff? I have this iPad or this phone.
People are so much more interesting beyond what they can tell you about your own work that you've stared at for the last who knows how long. Like,
right.
Getting to know somebody is the real key to any networking thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the opposite too, where you go online, you're doing these contests or your personal work, social media, Twitter and all that, and then you meet people that you might have followed on Twitter or looked up to at one of these events, and you're like, holy crap, you're here.
Oh yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
3 different.
I've been on both sides of that, like really hardcore, especially lately because I was just at BlizzCon, and since I work at Heroes Hype, people that have known me from the shit posting on our Discord and like my Twitter presence and stuff like that, and just and maybe in like other people's streams and stuff. I'm not a very visually like represented person online, besides like my work and my Twitter, which is mostly like SpongeBob memes. And then I went to BlizzCon and I was wearing our jersey, which has my like Twitter handle and everything on the back, and people were recognizing me and saying hi. And then versus like GDC, where I go and I'm running into people that I've known in person because I've walked up to people at parties and stuff when I was in college even, and just was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm Garret. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? What are you playing?
Well, yeah, I've had similar experiences where somebody will like recognize me from like my a picture of me online or something. Is somebody at last GDC was like, hey, you're the guy with the beard and that the jacket and stuff, and I'm like, yes. Who are you? And then they just left. I didn't get any more from them. They were just like, hey, you're that guy from Twitter, and I'm like, okay, and who are you? I want to know more about you. You apparently know a lot about me. But I've also sort of semi done that too. Like Becca Hallstedt, she's a 2D artist who's currently working on World of Warcraft.
Shout out to Becca.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's a really cool person. Awesome. The first time that I ever saw her in person, once again at GDC, I happened to see her badge as she was just standing there, and I was like, "Hey, you're Becca Hallstedt. I follow you on Twitter. Your work is really cool." But the way I phrased it, I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but it was like this weird, awkward, I'm mumbling, blah blah blah. I saw her later at the Polycount party, and then again the same night, a party after that, and we eventually, hit it off, and became like internet buds and stuff. But initially, it was like I'm the weirdo in that situation. I'm the guy who's saying I know you from the internet. So
I did this exact same thing to her at GDC. I went up to her and I was like, because between Facebook and Twitter, like she and I had been internet buddies, so to speak, like where we send each other memes and talk about cats and talk about art and blah blah blah, and we're both in the same industry, so we kind of like know each other without knowing each other to an extent. And then at the Polycount meeting, I went up to her and I was like, hi, I'm so and so. But that was when she was also like she was being recruited by Blizzard, and like some other stuff was going on. So she was super busy at GDC. So like it was just like, hey, I know you, you know me. This is what my face looks like. See you later. And then fast forward to this BlizzCon, and we're at the Hilton Hotel where like everyone just kind of hangs out. And I actually see her. She was at the Wowhead party, and I got to like talk to her for quite a while, and it was super awesome. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's a really cool person, and like,
and that's we got to actually have like a full conversation later, and we laughed about the fact that she was just so busy at GDC, and that it does happen where you just like, hey, I know you, I got to go over here though.
Yeah. But I think that does tie into like the original thrust of this discussion, though, is, what is something you want to avoid? It's essentially avoiding the like weird, hey, I know you from the internet thing, and just being like, hey, I've seen your work online. It's really cool. It's nice to meet you. And just lead off with it's nice to meet you, as opposed to like when I was having this same sort of discussion in another episode, someone said, hey, I stalk you on the internet. I like your work, blah, blah, blah. But the key word there was stalk. That's not a great lead into a conversation, especially if, given the current climate, if you're talking to a woman who has things on the internet, saying I stalk you on the internet is...
just don't.
Yeah, just don't do that. Don't do that.
Rule number 1, don't do that.
Yeah.
But I guess also, like, on top of networking, I think it's also really important, which I find a lot of people, especially like juniors I've worked with, it's not always the case, but on some instances, they tend to put their focus in terms of developing skills that are probably aren't as important. Like, for instance, like, obviously we make games, we make game res meshes, and then I find a lot of these artists tend to focus on really high poly stuff, all pre-rendered stuff, spending forever learning how to use Keyshot. And I'm like, that's great. Cool. You can make a really nice presentation, but how often do we use this stuff in a production environment? Never. So it's like, why not spend that time learning things like proper topology? Like, I've worked with so many people who have the worst low polys I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, how does this game ship with this stuff? And it does sometimes.
UV unwrapping.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, really bad UVs as well as really bad low polys. And it's like, yeah, it's like putting your focus on areas that I feel like isn't necessarily the most important. Like, I would definitely get the game production stuff really solid, because that's what you're going to be doing day in, day out. If you really want to get better at, like lighting something and having a really nice presentation and render, that's great too. Like, that's really important, but that's probably not the most important right now. And I feel like that's what I find a lot of people coming into the industry aren't spending enough time on. And they're like, oh, well, I've seen Rafael Grassetti's stuff. I want my stuff to look like his stuff. And I was like, you will get there. But at the same time, you want to be able to do your job efficiently, and you want to, like, after this game ships, you want to maintain a position, because at the same time, it's like, if your stuff sucks and you're not willing to improve the correct things, you may not have a job for the next project.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I saw a discussion on Facebook just the other day where someone was saying, it seems really odd to me that a lot of students make supposedly game res models that are, low poly, but then slap, say, an 8K texture on them or something. I mean, we might use an 8K texture for something. It's probably going to be a world texture or something like that. Or, you might use a 4K texture on like a hero character. But the key is that you need to be able to understand where you would use a 4K texture, where you would use something that's really high or really low poly. And those are skills you develop. And you need to take the time to develop them, as opposed to just being like, oh, I want to make a pretty thing. It doesn't matter how it works technically, because the technical side is like half the job, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can, if you're doing a portfolio piece, that's a little different. But like, if you really want to show off where you fit in the pipeline, then you need to discuss like, and like I was writing a class for the academy for texturing, and from the get-go, it's like, if you want to present your stuff in Engine, I would prefer that. But like, if you don't want to, then you can use like Mental Ray. These are the settings you use. Don't even worry about anything else. Don't worry about learning Mental Ray, because that's not the class. Focus on what you're presenting with Mental Ray or in Engine or whatever. And it's like, it's amazing to have the coolest looking art on the face of the planet, but if it can't be in the game, then it can't be in a game. So if you have a portfolio that's just all this really crazy high definition, super artistic stuff, that's cool, but it's going to be really difficult to translate that to a recruiter to be like, how does this person understand like engine restrictions? Can this run? Like, you can't go to like Maxis to work on the Sims and present them a really high resolution prop, like it just doesn't translate well. So it's like a balance on your portfolio for portfolio pieces, as well as like projects and stuff. If you can make a finish that, and that's why a lot of people like the finished projects, being like, hey, I made this in this project, because it shows that like the project works and what you made works in that project, and it doesn't look like butthole.
Hopefully.
Versus like, a key shot render of some super cool tank that you made that has 12 million polys and 4 8K textures. Like, Hollywood would love that. It looks great. Translate that information, that knowledge that you have, that you made that into an engine, and show and put it into Unity or Unreal, and stick it online for people to mess with, and that's just going to go so much further.
Yep.
There's even things like now with Marmoset are tools like that where engine exporters where you can get them into Unreal.
Yeah, those things are definitely really handy, especially when you don't necessarily need to set up a bunch of stuff in Unreal. You can just do sort of a 1 or 2 clicks to get something.
Like BAM
imported.
node editor, you might need to flip some textures around, change the Y values, and you're done.
Yeah.
No, learn that for your pipeline. Get good.
Well, if you know it, I'm just.
No. Oh my God! See, Unreal 4 versus UDK with flipping your green channels. Can we just talk about for a second the difference between that? UDK was 6 submenus into a checkbox, and then you had to recompile that texture. Versus UDK is just click.
Well, that's definitely something that has improved over the past few years. Is tools. My God. Oh. Well,
I think MenoRay just got discontinued too.
Oh yeah,
last month.
Did it really? I didn't even know.
Yeah, no more updates.
For Mental Ray.
Oh. Well, on that note, I think we've had some really good discussion here. So there's some nice meat to this this talk, and I think
it's going to be program talk.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to devolve too much into talking about programs and such too much, but more about the generalities of game dev, I think. But
that's why I stayed quiet. That particular discussion, I would have never shut up on.
Believe me, I can.
The game pipeline.
Oh yeah.
If anything, it's be okay with trying out new programs like ZBrush, Marvelous Designer, XGen. But I mean, focus on the thing you want to get good at.
Yeah.
Or you'll just get stuck.
Yeah, and make cool stuff. Just understand how it will translate to the field that you want to actually work in.
That is a very, very good sort of encapsulation of this entire point. Yeah.
To your original point, just one quick thing that I did have one thing to contribute. Real quick, won't elaborate too much on it since we've discussed a lot. One thing that I see a lot of people doing, trying to get into the industry, and ultimately it only ends up hurting both their own progress and wherever they're working. If you're trying to work your way into the industry, do not go into it with a mindset of I'm going to get X job to give me a paycheck until I can get Y job. That is a mentality that is very self-damaging and company damaging, and ultimately will result in you not having that paycheck from X job. By all means, progress on your own time, but when you're hired to do a specific job at any company, whether it be QA or low-level art stuff, learn what you're doing there, because it will benefit you in the long run, and it will build you connections that will lead to you eventually getting to where you want to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
You can always learn something from one position that translates to another.
Especially making a transition from something like QA to another field. I mean, QA teaches you a lot about how games are made anyway. I know that a lot of people see QA as sort of like an entry-level transitional type of job, but in a lot of ways, it's one of the most important steps in the entire pipeline, because you're the person who's identifying the things that other people need to work on. And if you can get good at that, you become an invaluable member of the team. They can't replace you because you will be so embedded in the everyday process.
Yeah, I've been thinking about making a blog of all the shit that got past QA and games that I play. It's The Witcher 3, gotta love it, absolutely love it. But the first scene coming in when it's still in the cinematic, there's this massive texture scene. I don't want to props right in the middle of the camera. Just screenshot. Dark Souls 3, there was an auto UVing of terrain, screenshot, just totally broken. And it takes people in QA to catch that stuff, because artists don't have time. Notice that auto UVs work 99% of the time for terrain stuff, but as soon as that 1% of the time, you got to have someone in QA that's just on their game.
Yep.
And so, yeah, to follow up on your point, no position is more important than any other position. If you don't do your position correctly, they won't want you in the other position. So.
Yeah, I just want to throw that in there. Like, I thought hard on that one, but that's the one thing I see like the most these days is people treating their job as like treating their job as the stepping stone job, and it's like you can't do that and expect to be here long.
That is a very good point. But I think we've had some good discussion. Unless you guys wanted to bring up anything else, you guys ready to kind of get back into the game, get back into things?
Let's do it.
Let's find out what the heck is up with this cat.
Ready to become a true toy.
Alrighty. So over the past hour or so, you guys made your way from the Adventurers Guild building to the home of old Mrs. Gladstone, a very old, very tiny, very cat lady, living in a massive mansion that was passed down through generations, and it appears that one of her beloved cats has gotten stuck in the tree in the courtyard of her beloved mansion. Now, as you made your way to this courtyard and tried to entice this poor cat named Matilda down from the tree, apparently only served to make it rather angry or perhaps hungry. You're not sure. But hopping down from the tree, you saw some sort of bizarre living shadow-like creature, which revealed itself to be a larger six-legged version of a black jaguar with tentacles sprouting from its shoulder blades. Its eyes, these piercing yellow dots staring out of the shadow at you. And as you try to focus on this creature slowly stalking across the courtyard towards you, it's hard to focus on it. It's hard to look directly at it because it seems that whenever you look directly at it, it's somewhere else nearby, but still elsewhere. And the black cats that had been clustered around the base of the tree are now swarming around the feet of this creature as it stalks towards you. And there's this low rumbling vibration, this growl coming deep from within this creature's throat as it walks towards you, stalking across the courtyard.
I say, well, cat's out of the tree. Job done. Let's go.
Yeah, I cast fly on myself and I shoot up.
All right.
Like that's just like as soon as that thing hits the ground, I'm just like, nope. So I go up about probably 45 feet.
Okay. What else are you guys doing? What are the rest of you doing?
Dave's not the most intelligent paladins, so he's actually going to go up and be like, he's seen some shit, okay? This thing, obviously it's a family pet, exists, Dave is like, I'm going to walk up and like sort of close to it and be like, oh, he was a nice kitty, trying to not
gonna be immediately running back towards the door, like everything forgotten, the music box shut, like
leave David sacrifice himself.
I messed up.
And Emil, what are you doing?
I wouldn't say that I'm approaching, but I'm standing my ground. Like, I'm cautious. I know that this isn't gonna go too well. But I'm there to back anything up in case shit goes down.
All right.
And sneezing.
Yes, definitely still sneezing, because even though you are out in the fresh air now, you are still surrounded by lots of cats. Now, as this creature slowly stalks forward, Garret, as you start to approach it slowly, it stops and sort of lowers itself. It's four legs sort of getting down into a crouched position. Its hind legs almost twitching with how tense the muscles are. And you're not sure yet, but how close do you want to try and get to this thing?
Like 10 feet.
All right. So as you walk across the courtyard, going from maybe 30 feet to 20 feet, 15, 10 feet away, it suddenly lets out this and one of the two tentacles on its back shoots forward and attempts to attack you, trying to sort of rake across your chest. That's going to be it's going to be a 13 to hit.
No.
All right.
I see a 20 right now.
All right. Yeah. So it tries to just kind of like rake across your chest, but it just kind of like it almost just bounces off your chest armor and gets into a position where it looks like it's about to jump on you. Roll for initiative, everyone.
Oh, shit. And this is where being a very fat paladin comes to bite me in the butt. That's a 5.
Alrighty. So let's see here. That's going to be Garrett's a 5. Oh, sorry. Doug.
13.
13. Emil.
12.
And Matt.
I rolled 4.
Okay, so we're gonna we've got
running away.
we've got Doug up first.
You were running away. That is very true.
Yes, this is very true. And Emil, yours was a 13, you said? Or
12.
12. Alrighty. That's going to put the
Sorry, that was 7.
7. All right.
Forgot
That's
to
going
add
to
it.
put Matilda.
It still sucks.
Matt, and finally, Garrett. What was your original roll? I'm sorry.
That's a 5.
5. All righty. So,
Really strong.
oh yeah. You're all coming in strong. I'm digging it. So, all right.
My first roll was a 20, and we've gone downhill from there.
Yeah. It happens. Don't worry too much about it. All right. Let me just get this. Alrighty. So bringing up the top of the round, that's Doug. So hovering there, 45 feet in the air, you see that your friend in his armor slowly approaches, and then this beast lashes out with one of its tentacles, raking across the armor on his chest, some actual sparks flying off that you can just barely see. What are you trying to do?
It's been a long time since I've been in this position. So I mean, don't want to kill this thing because it's obviously this now clearly insane woman's pet. So I just kind of like back up an additional 30 feet flying. So I'm like 45, 30. And I'm just yelling down.
Scared.
I'm like, get the fuck out.
All right. Then that's going to bring it to Emil. What are you doing?
All right, let's do some damage.
All right. So this thing's about 30 feet away from you right now, but you could move up to it.
Okay. I don't need to, since the thing I'm going to do is 60 feet of range.
All right, then.
I'm going to cast Shadow, which essentially makes a sudden loud ringing noise, painfully intense, erupts from a point of your choice within range. Each creature in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make a Constitution saving throw. The creature takes 3d8 thunder damage on a failed save and half as much on a successful one.
Shadow is awesome.
And if the creature by any chance is made out of stone, crystal, or metal, then it gets a disadvantage, but I doubt any of that is true.
It doesn't appear that this creature is made out of any sort of those materials. But yeah, so it has to make a Constitution saving throw, you said?
That's correct.
Alrighty.
I believe I'm one of those creatures, right?
Well, it's a point
you're
that
like
you choose,
within.
right?
You said you're like within 10
I'm
feet.
10 feet away, right?
Yeah. So then, if it's a radius of 10 feet, so it would only extend 5 foot away from the thing.
Okay.
All right.
No.
So what is the DC for that?
I guess
It should be on your spell page. It'll be the spell save DC.
Sorry, my bad. Where am I?
Radius still gets me.
Yeah, I think it might. I might cast it a little bit behind.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can absolutely do that because it said centered on a point that you choose, so you could choose to exclude him from that.
You can do whatever you want, man. I'll take it.
No. You're the one that's going to keep me alive since you've got a better AC and I'm like paper.
And I'm the only one that can heal.
Hold on. Oh, okay, 14.
All right.
My card stacks.
And that was a Constitution, you said?
Yep.
All right. So the creature does make it save. However, all of the cats that are currently clustered around its feet are instantly turned to this sort of red mist as they just sort of explode and there's this cloud of red that surrounds this creature. The blood just spatters onto its lower half, and you can see that there are just like spatters going up its flanks. And as this happens, it lets out this like sort of sounds.
Oh my
and
god!
It's so it made its save.
I rolled a 17 total damage, so half that.
Alrighty,
However you round up or down.
Yeah, it would be rounding down, so that's going to be 8 damage to this thing. Alrighty.
I'm feeling kind of good. Like normally, I'm not much of a person to injure animals, but the fact that they've been making me feel like shit this whole time I've been in the house, I don't feel any bit of remorse for these strange cats.
Alrighty.
Who are now red-faced.
And as this happens, the sound sort of echoes throughout the entire courtyard. Some of the leaves on the tree above sort of get blown off, and there's a sort of hail of green acorns as they get knocked off the tree. That's going to bring it to Matilda's turn. She is going to lash out once again at you, Garret. She's going to move up about 5 feet so that you're fully within range and attack with both of her tentacles. And
bring it on.
Let me see here. That's going to be a 22 to hit.
Yep.
And a
That's
natural 1. So
no.
So let's see here. That is going to be 1d6. That's going to
Can
be, and then that's going to be
can I flavor it
sure.
for the 1?
Yeah.
So the 22. We'll do the 22 and then I'll flavor it.
Yeah. So the 22. That's going to be. Let me see here. 1 second. That's going to be 1d6. That's going to be 5 bludgeoning damage plus 6 piercing damage.
So 11 total?
So 11 total, yes.
Okay.
And then for the natural 1, this tentacle is going to sort of like whip around and completely miss you as you like sort of see it coming. You're able to like see this thing on its way towards you, and it actually just completely whips past you and sort of slaps against the flank of this creature. It doesn't deal any damage. It's just kind of like hits it on the side.
For flavor, as it like, kind of slaps on me, can I just reach out and pet it now that it's within melee range?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I would say do a dexterity check to try and actually do that on... Because this is just essentially just like a reaction type of thing. We'll bend some rules.
It's for flavor.
It's for flavor. It's fine.
Speed pet.
Dex, it's a 16. I rolled a 17 -1 because I'm a big fat paladin.
Yeah, so you do manage to just go and like pat it on the head a little bit really quick, but you can see that it's about to like start snapping at you. All right, Matt, what are you doing?
Well, I just rolled the 7, so did I trip while falling or what? Or is that just for the initiative?
Oh, that was just for initiative, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
It's
just
your
order.
order.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to back up.
Okay.
I'll be trying to get the hooded lantern out of my pack
Okay.
and just lighting that since it's been freaking me out. So just be holding on to that.
All right.
Kind
cool.
of as
Just
not
as
inside
almost
yet,
like a
but-
security blanket type of thing, just like standing
Oh,
there
I
with
need
some
to-
flames.
like back more where ammo is.
Okay.
Still not inside though.
Garrett, what were you saying?
Sorry, I just remembered I needed to roll against my concentration, and I did. I rolled. Concentration is just a saving throw, right?
Yeah, so it's you have to either beat half of the damage they did, or you have to, we'll just say half the damage that they did.
I rolled a 13. So
So that you're fine. You maintain concentration. All right then. That's going to actually bring it to Garrett's turn. What are you doing?
oh man. So now I've been essentially splattered by dead cats.
You have there is a mist of red upon your entire front. It's not the splatter that is on this beast, but it is certainly a gross misty redness that just covers your entire front.
And this thing is a 4 foot 6-legged cat.
Yes, 4 feet tall. It has 2 pairs of front legs, and then there's the pair in the rear.
Okay.
And it has 2 tentacles sprouting from its back.
Obviously, I want this cat to be in good shape, but I just don't think it needs to be put in timeout. So I'm gonna unarmed strike it.
All right. What would you like to do as far as unarmed strikes are concerned?
I'm gonna try to hammer fist on its head, be like, you need to be in timeout.
All right. I dig it. Yeah. Roll an attack and add either your dex or your strength, whichever one you think is more appropriate.
Do you have like full gauntlets on when he's doing this?
So I have a plus, so it's +7 to hit.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to need it because I just rolled a 4, so that's an 11.
So as you go to swing at this thing's head to kind of like just boop it on the snoot, it sort of like sees what's coming and just barely dodges out of the way. Your hand just whiffing through empty space. All right, that's going to bring it back to the top of the round. Doug, what are you doing now that you're floating way up in the air above the roof of this mansion?
So I'm still kind of in shock as to all this situation. Like literally seeing a bunch of cats like explode into red mist, and now we're apparently hitting the thing we were in the save zone. But
I hit him with my fist, to be fair. Not like weapon.
the tactical nuke strike on the cats is what really shocked me.
Tactical.
But I'm going to, because I have absolutely no idea how to handle this, so I'm going to revert to my studies, and this is the first time I've actually ever gotten to use this spell, Animate Dead on one of the dead cats.
Okay.
One of them that hopefully still has its body.
Okay. Do a perception check to see if you can actually see one that has any body left.
Oh god, so I've been
misted.
Nope, I've been rolling good for the night. That's the first bad one though. That's a 5.
So you can't see a specific cat. There is a large splatter of gore underneath where this cat creature is standing, but
Cat.
If there's a collection that looks like it may have once been a cat, that'll work.
there are some large splatters that look like they may have once been contiguous bodies of cat. You can give it a shot.
Making
Yeah.
a cat slime.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out. I'm like, oh god, I hope this works. And I sort of summon the ethereal energies of life and death and direct it into this. Well, I actually have to like swoop down. So 45 minutes. So I swoop down to. I I swoop 35 feet down to get within 10 range of this gore pile.
Yes.
Cast the spell and then use the rest of my movement to go back up.
So just so you're aware, Animate Dead is specifically for humanoids. It cannot actually target animals or monsters.
Crap, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
no worries.
Sorry, I missed that description.
You need to read some more books.
That ruins that plan.
Yeah. We are Alokites in the Adventurers Guild.
Okay.
Yes, you're still quite low level members, so don't worry about it too much.
Is there any dead things like that rat or whatever that they threw out that he could have?
That's
Do
not
a
a
perception
humanoid.
I just gotta look at this like
All right.
fish or not.
I'm sorry, like any dead things in the yard, like dead humans.
Soon to
nothing
be
you
me
saw,
for sure.
But
You can animate me when I'm dead.
I'm saying
Or
like
me.
accidental
Okay.
animation.
Okay, so instead of that, what I will do is I will swoop down and land because I don't want to knock myself out, and I cast Levitate on the giant cat.
Oh.
all right. Let me see here. Levitate.
So
Let me see.
I will save you some time.
Unwilling creature has to succeed on a constant con save though, and is unaffected if they succeed.
The wonderful part about Levitate is that it gives us advantage.
Well, it also makes it harmless for now.
Does it really? I didn't know that.
Maintain that for 10 minutes. Well, it levitates at 20 feet in the air.
Up to 20 feet, yeah. So let me see here. Yeah, so this looks like move only by pushing or pulling against a fixed object. Okay, so how high do you want to move this thing up?
Is it still near the tree?
It is just on the edge of where the tree extends out to. So, like, if it looked straight up, it would be able to see leaves. But if it took a step forward, there would be no leaves above it.
15 feet up, 5-way towards us. So it's like hanging in air, like not able to touch anything. If I can get the horizontal movement, if not, I'll just hover. I'll just bring it like enough to I'll say 10 feet. Like I just want it to not be able to touch anything.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I know exactly how high it is up. So you said I'm just trying to get a good sense of where it is in space.
Just so 10 up and 5 away from the tree.
Okay, great. 10 up and 5 away. All right, cool. So then yes, you do cast this, and it has to make a con save. What is the DC for that?
That is going to be a 14.
It rolled an 8. All right, so this thing starts to levitate upwards, seemingly out of nowhere. It just lifts up, and Garret, you actually see this thing just pop up off the ground.
Oh no, I think it's mad, mad that it's just
yeah.
As I do this, I'm just I got it.
It is you know how when you're watching a movie and there's guys flying through the air from an explosion, their arms are cartwheeling and stuff. It's doing the equivalent of that with its tentacles and its both forelegs and rear legs. It levitates up 10 feet in the air and 5 feet towards you, bringing it directly above your head.
So as I'm doing that, I realized that mistake, but I'm still I got it.
You did get it, and it did fail its save. So that is going to bring it to Emil's turn. What are you doing?
Shit, okay. Seeing that it's kind of partially incapacitated, I'm trying to wait it out to see whether it actually, our goal wasn't to kill this thing. Our goal was to get it down off the tree, but my initial instinct was to kill it if we were getting attacked. But now that we kind of have it in a bit of a limbo state, I guess I'm going to hold my action. And if it happens to slip through this round, I will do an attack. But for now, I'm just holding
Okay. So if it stops levitating, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay,
If,
cool.
if it becomes a threat again in terms of like it's able to attack one of us, then yeah, I will do
Gotcha.
a counter attack. If it's just
All right.
levitating, then I'm good.
All right, cool. So, holding your action. That's going to bring it to Matilda's turn. And seeing that Garret is directly below it, it's going to use its tentacles and try to lash out again. So, yes, you will be able to attack it once it's finished its attacks. So, that is a... that's going to be a 10 to hit, which misses, and an 11 to hit, as it just tries and fails to get these tentacles to go down and hit you, but you're like looking up at it, you're just like, no.
Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. So Emil, that's going to allow you to get a hit on it. So you just want to like run up and bonk it on the head or something?
No, well, like now that I've noticed it's missed, I think I might want to, like, I'm probably just going to not do anything this round and probably allow Garret to at least back up if he wishes to do so, and then I'll do something next round. For now, I think I'm good.
All right, cool. So then that's going to bring it to Matt. What are you doing?
I'm going to start getting the rope out that have like 100 just hempen rope, 50 feet of it. So start preparing that. See if I can rope this thing.
All right, cool. So do you want to like move up and start trying to like get the rope around it at all, or are you just getting ready?
I feel like this is gonna go bad, so I'm gonna wait, but get closer, probably about 5 feet behind him, where it's hovering over.
Okay.
5, yeah.
Yeah, so you could just like in a pinch, just like throw the rope on it, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. So then that's going to bring it to Garret. What are you doing? This thing is hovering directly above you. Its tentacles trying to slap at you, but you've managed to dodge out of the way.
I'm gonna jump up and grab it to try to grapple it to the ground.
All right. All right. Cool. I dig it. So do an athletics check.
So 14 plus 4, it's 18.
Alrighty. It rolled a 13 to oppose that. So yes, you do manage to just like grab onto it, and you're sort of like hanging from it, and it's trying to push you away, but it just can't get a good angle, as it's sort of like it almost like slowly rotates in the air because it can't really get a good balance or anything. You just latch onto it, and it's just like kind of kicking and scratching and stuff, but it can't really get purchase on you. So it slowly starts to fall down towards the ground with you hanging off of it.
Can I try to like sort of like pet it and be like, shh, it's okay, we're here to help you?
Yeah, sure. You know what? Do an animal handling check.
Okay. What is that based?
That is going to be based on you.
Wait, no.
It's your wisdom. So you should
I
have
got
a
it.
plus
I got
one.
it. Yeah. That's a 9.
Yeah, so this thing seems to be just so aggressive and so angry that it's been like hit, and all of its friends were just turned into mist and paste, and it's splattered in gore, which is now sort of like dripping down onto your face. That it's just like going. It seems very, very angry.
I'm gonna say it's a fail.
So that's going to bring it back to the top of the round. Doug, what are you doing? This thing is still floating in the air, though it's starting to move down slowly.
I'm frantically yelling at Garret, "Get off the damn cat!" And I'm trying to like because I can move it additional movement on my turn. So I'm like trying to move it. I'm like doing the friggin' Luke Skywalker, like holding the boulders, just like, "Get off the damn cat! I got it."
All right. Do you want to actually try and move this thing? Or do you just want to keep it in place?
Yes, I will try to move it back up, and because I don't want this thing getting back onto the ground.
Okay. Then you will be able to move it, say, half the speed that you would be able to normally, since Garret is currently hanging from it, so you're only able to, get it about half the distance you could.
Okay.
So where do you just want to like move it up?
Feet up.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, as long as that it doesn't bring it into the tree, because I know once it gets into the tree, that's bad.
With the way that you moved it, yeah, it would be away from the tree.
Okay.
It could probably like slap at some of the branches with one of its tentacles, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Would you consider that being moved away from my grappling?
No, because you have a good handle on it, and it's just essentially just like moving a little bit through space. So you're hanging onto it as this is happening.
So I'm now in the air.
Yeah, your feet are probably like 5 feet off the ground now, since it's been moved. An additional 10 feet or whatever. Yeah.
There's a paladin in a suit of armor attached to a giant weird cat floating through the air.
All right, then that's going to bring it to Emil. What are you doing?
Shit, every ounce of me is trying to say we should fucking kill this thing. Just because Tobin, the dwarf, has encountered many things like this, and the only way to resolve the issue is by terminating the issue. But it seems like we kind of have it under control, and it already seems... Well, we have a paladin hanging off it to start with. And it seems like Doug kind of has it under control in some way. So I will just echo, like, get off the cat. We kind of have this thing under control. Like, let's see what we can do. And we should get Lady Gladstone out here and let her know that we've got her cat down.
Oh God, no! She'll see all her dead cats.
We'll just say that it went berserk and it attacked all the other cats, and now we've got it restrained.
Okay, Emil, do a persuasion check, and Garret, I want you to just do a charisma saving throw.
Oh God, I got some bad news for you. That's a +6.
Yeah, paladin.
Oh, I mean, I rolled a 6, so it's 12.
Oh, 13.
He does seem pretty convincing. I mean, you got to give him that.
Wait, what does he say?
I was just saying, get down off the cat. We have this under control. You're just doing more harm than good right now.
All right, if I may, I'm like, okay, I'll just fucking let go.
Right. Yeah, so you fall to the ground. Do a dexterity saving throw with advantage. This is not a long drop.
That's a 7. Okay, 13.
Yeah, you manage to land. You don't twist your ankle, though you do slip a little bit on some of the gore that's splattered around, but you manage to like right yourself. And currently the crazy cat creature is hovering above you. Its legs just pumping in space and it just letting out these horrible noises. All right. Then that's going to bring it to Matilda's turn. And let me see here. 1 second. Turn. Hit by an attack. 0. All right. Well. Yeah, it is going to try and fail to attack anything within range. Nothing is within range. So it is currently essentially restrained and can't really do anything. So then that's going to bring it to Matt. What are you doing?
Well, now that it's out of range, I gotta try tactics a little bit differently. So, let's see. I'm probably gonna be trying to climb that tree.
Okay, cool.
Do it.
All right, yeah. So then,
with the rope and the lantern.
Okay.
And
So
a lantern?
so do a I guess that'd just be a general dexterity check. You could use acrobatics or athletics if you want to. But really, it's pretty easy to climb up in this tree, so.
Yeah, either way with like acrobatics, say 19.
I'm gonna be right back.
Like 22.
Right. Yep. Yeah, you are able to pretty easily climb up into this tree. What do you want to do while you're up in this tree?
Let's see. I'm gonna just ready the short bow.
Okay. And do you want to just like hold an attack or something like that? Because you essentially use your movement, but you'd still have an action available. Do you want to like hold an attack or something like that?
I try to shoot at it then.
Okay. Yeah. Then do an attack roll. And let me see. This music is incompatible. Yeah. Do an attack roll.
I got a 5 on the 20. That's just basic 20, right?
So yeah, roll a d20 and add the attack modifier, which is right next to your short bow.
So 10.
So 10 total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 and 5.
Yeah. So the arrow just shoots through the air, blasting through some of the leaves. But because you have kind of a hard time seeing through the leaves, you're not able to get a good bead on the on this weird cat thing. So it just kind of sails right on past it. Unfortunately, you can hear it kind of clatter against the roof of the mansion, and then the arrow kind of falls to the ground. And that's going to bring it back to the top of the round. No, actually, that's going to be Garrett's turn. However, there he is.
Good timing.
Yes, very good timing. Sorry
about that.
Oh, no, you're good. So, Garret, you are up. Matt just tried to shoot an arrow, though it sailed a little past the this creature.
Okay,
I'm in the tree.
You're in the tree.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I was wondering. I'm just gonna be like, what are you doing? We're trying to save this thing. Like, and I'm gonna
we can fix it later.
I'm gonna
Be yelling it at him.
I'm gonna try to understand what the heck this thing is.
Okay.
I
guess that'd be a nature check.
Okay. I'm not very smart, so it's a 13.
So you would know that this thing is... you wouldn't have seen one of these firsthand, but from descriptions you've heard from other adventurers and people in the Adventurers Guild, being that you came from, you were in an army for a while, you've heard lots of stories of all sorts of different creatures, you would know that this thing is called a displacer beast. It is a large jaguar-like entity that has some sort of powers that you're not super familiar with, but judging by descriptions you've read, it looks very similar, and it looks like that. So yes, a very large jaguar, 6 legs, and big old.
So
tentacles.
I pretty much know the name of it.
Essentially the name, and you'd have heard that they're like difficult to hit with weapons, but aside from that, not too much.
Okay, so that's my action, right?
I mean that's just like we could call that like a bonus action essentially. You'd still have your movement and an action. That's just like remembering something essentially.
Then I'm going to command it to relax.
All right.
So one word command to creature I can see. Must succeed on wisdom saving throw of, I believe it's 5th. My saving throw is. My charisma modifier, right?
So it'll be, let me see here. I think it's at the top of your spell sheet, actually. It should be a 14? Yeah. So it's the spell save DC at the top of your spell sheet. That's going to be a 14. So yeah, it should be 10 plus your charisma modifier, I believe.
Charisma mod's 3.
Okay. Then you might also have some proficiencies and stuff. But with the sheet that you sent me, it's set at a 14. Okay.
Then it's 14. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the actual D&D Beyond page, not the.
Gotcha. We'll call it a 14. That's fine with me. I don't really care that much. And it was a wisdom saving throw, you said?
Yes.
So it rolled a. Let me see here. It rolled a 13.
Oof.
So it does not save.
Nope.
So what are you
I just
trying to tell it to do? Just calm down. Just relax.
Yeah, for command, I can only do a one word. I'm just like, hey, you need to, and then I'm just like, relax.
Okay. All right, cool. So as this thing is sort of like staring at you with one of its beady yellow glowing eyes, it looks down at you as you're saying this word and imbuing it with the sort of divine power that comes through your paladin nature. And for a second, it seems its eye seems to just kind of flare and flash at you, but then it stops making that sort of throaty growling sound, and you can see that the tentacles on the top of its back stop like whipping around and start moving in a more like rhythmic motion, almost jellyfish-like. And its legs stop moving, and it almost sort of seems to curl in on itself, kind of like a cat laying in a sunbeam, except it's just hovering in the air. It still looks a little bit agitated, but and it's looking around at all of you as much as it can, given that it's floating in the air. But it's stopped struggling now.
Okay. That'll be my turn.
All right, cool. Then that's going to bring it to Doug's turn. What are you doing?
Okay, are we still in combat order, or
we're gonna stay in combat order for now.
Okay.
I believe. Does it have to make a saving throw on its turn?
The spell doesn't say anything about continued saves, just the initial one.
Yeah, I think you are correct.
Of course, if you want to roll it differently, just DM.
Target can't follow your commands. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, it's going to essentially stay calm for now, but we'll see what happens. So Doug, what are you doing?
Okay, so while I'm sort of juggling this guy here, I'm just kind of like, okay, we've managed. So let's see, free action speaking 6 seconds. We've already killed a bunch of our cats. Let's not kill this one. Help! And then I'll pass it on as I just continue to hold the cat in the air.
All righty, cool. Then that's going to bring it to Emil. What are you doing?
I guess at this point, someone needs to get Lady Gladstone. So, I think now that we have Matilda down from the tree, I think it's best that we get Lady Gladstone involved. I'm more than happy to go get her unless someone else has a better idea.
Probably not a good idea given the giant bloodstains.
I'll take responsibility for the giant bloodstains. That's no problem at all. And then I head towards the house to try to get her as my action.
All right, cool. So yeah, you just you head back through the door that you came in and just start booking it back to where you know that Mrs. Gladstone was getting some tea to cure her parched throat. All right, then that's going to bring it to Matilda's turn. She's just going to keep sort of looking around at all of you very warily. She twitches a little bit when you sort of turn on your heel and start running, but other than that, she doesn't seem to be doing too much. She seems on edge, but currently calms down. Matt, is there anything you want to do right now?
I would yell out to them saying, should I try to grapple this thing, try to get it down? Can they respond?
I just shout back up. I'm like, I can hold this for 10 minutes. Please don't bring it to the ground.
Okay. In that case, I would kind of ready the rope just because I'm not listening to him fully, but like I'm getting ready to tackle this thing. But I'm still not going to do anything this turn.
All right, cool. Oh, excuse me. Oh, then Garrett, what do you want to do?
I'm going to step. So I'm 10 feet away, 15 feet away, right?
Yeah, you're currently say between 10 and 15 feet away. It's kind of hovering up above and in front of you.
I'm just going to then like step the full 15 feet away and delay action to if Gladstone gets there this turn or not.
Okay. And if she does get back to you before your next turn, what do you want to do? What are you holding?
I'm just gonna. So if she gets there in time, I'm just gonna talk to her.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then that's going to bring it back to the top of the round. And now that we're sort of out of combat, is there anything that you guys want to specifically do right now? Or are you just going to kind of like hold your place while Emil goes and gets old Mrs. Gladstone?
I'm gonna try to talk to the cat and be nice to it.
Okay.
Show it that I'm not a threat.
All right. Do another animal handling check.
It's better. And it's +1, right? Yeah. So that's a 15.
All right. So as you're very soothingly talking to this thing in a very low, calm voice, you can see that it does start to relax. It still seems kind of on edge because it's floating in the air, but the fact that you were able to sort of like command it to calm down, and now you're sort of like talking to it very soothingly.
Hello.
It seems to be calming down a lot more.
You're a good kitty.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be taking as aggressive a posture. And as you talk to it, you notice that some of the cats that had been hiding in the corners of the courtyard are now starting to kind of come forward and stand around your feet now that their big friend is sort of calming down. They're rubbing against your shin guards, and you can actually see that there's one black cat that comes from the other side of the courtyard from behind the tree, and it comes and actually sits in front of you and starts like meowing up at this creature that's hanging above. Emil, what are you doing? You just running off to get Mrs. Gladstone?
Yep. So as soon as I get into the house, I call out for Mrs. Gladstone, or at least kind of like poke around to see whether she was still where we left her, sipping her tea.
Okay. Yeah. So as you go back down that hallway and hang a left to go back down the sort of perimeter hallway that you came down, you get to the corner and see that she is still slowly hobbling towards that little room, a herd of cats just sort of swarming around her. She occasionally stops to pet one, and you can hear her talking. You can't really make out any of the words, but you can hear her talking to these cats very quietly, and the smell of cat piss once again just slams you in the face. You want to sneeze again, but you also want to like just kind of hack a little bit. It's really gross in here now that you think about it. But she is just down at the end of the hallway, slowly hobbling towards that little room where you guys had your tea.
Yep. Miss Gladstone, excuse me. Yeah, we've managed to get Matilda down from the tree.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're back so soon. Oh, hello. Oh, Matilda is safe, is she? Oh my goodness.
And she actually slowly turns around and starts hobbling back towards you and towards the courtyard. Just a tiny bit of spring in her step for someone who appears to be incredibly ancient. She just starts babbling at you about how, oh, Matilda's such a good girl, and she has so many lovely little kittens, and they're gonna grow up to be such beautiful cats, and there have been so many kittens in Matilda's line. It's great to see that she's been able to make more and to continue that bloodline. And you slowly make your way back down the corridor.
We also have a little bit of some bad news. It wasn't easy getting her down. She seemed to have been a little aggressive with the other cats. She seemed to have attacked some of the cats as she made it down the tree, and now we managed to subdue her, and she's calm now. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess outside, so I want to prepare you for the worst.
Oh no! It wasn't. Oh my goodness! It wasn't Bo, was it? Oh, I loved Bo so much. I hope he's not injured.
I think Bo managed to make it unscathed, but I can't speak for some of the other cats. Unfortunately.
Oh no, not Philomena. Oh, I hope Philomena's all right too. She was out in the yard last I saw.
Hold on, was Philomena a spotted cat by any chance?
Oh, she has stripes.
Stripes? Well, in that case, I think Philomena also was quite safe.
Oh, that's wonderful. What about Ben and his brother? Did you see them?
Ben made it? I'm not sure about his brother, sadly.
Oh, no, that's a terrible thing. Oh, no, poor Stevie. Oh, no.
Well, hopefully you can help us with Matilda so we can try get her to calm down to stop her from potentially injuring any of the other cats.
And as you're talking about this, you turn the corner and see that Matilda is still hovering up there in the air. Your friend sort of doing this weird force manipulation sort of dance with his hands, and your paladin friend uttering very calming words, stroking some of the cats below to show that he's no threat. And as Mrs. Gladstone turns the corner, she sees she sees Matilda hanging in the air, and she's like,
Oh my goodness, you folks at the Adventurers Guild, you're so amazing. You're making Matilda fly. Oh my. Oh, you're such a sweet little kitty. What's on your fur? Oh, what's on your fur?
Oh dear God.
What's on Matilda's fur? She seems very wet.
Well, some of the cats have died.
Oh no! Oh, he said that there was that some. Oh my goodness! Oh no!
and you can see that she actually starts counting all the cats, and she's like,
Oh, where are the kittens? Where are Matilda's little boys and girls? I see Nani over there, but I don't see any of the rest. Come here, Nani, come here.
As I mentioned, yeah, she got quite aggressive on the way down, and there was some collateral damage. Yeah.
do a deception check.
Deception. Okay, where we at?
Hearing that, can I assist him? Just being like, oh yeah, yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, do a deception check and do it with advantage.
Just because I don't want her to, even though I'm not supposed to lie, I don't want this little old lady to be really upset that her favorite biggest cat, it's very apparent how important it is that Matilda's kids did die because of us.
Well, my first roll was a 21, and the second one was a 14.
Oh well, that's not too bad. Yeah, she seems shocked, but she's she takes it at face value that I mean, it seems like she kind of understands that Matilda is a very large, potentially aggressive animal, and she seems sad and worried, but she seems to accept what you've said.
Oh, it's just so terrible, but I suppose you had to do what you had to do. You are professionals, after all. I'll get through this, and of course I have Marnie up in the second floor. Maybe his little children, Marnie and Betty, they're making some beautiful little kittens now. They have wings on them. It's amazing.
I'm just gonna face palm and just.
I'm facing away from her because I'm still controlling this cat, but I have this look of abject horror on my face, like just this horrified drag of just like, oh my God, we're all gonna die.
Within this realm that we are, like this kingdom, how is there any laws against breeding ultra dangerous mythical creatures?
Do a history check.
I got 11.
I mean, it's certainly a bad idea. There aren't necessarily laws per se, though. I mean, it's generally agreed upon that breeding strange magical creatures is probably not wise.
I'm just gonna turn to Miss Gladstone and be like, have any of your lovelies escaped? Not the smaller cats, but ones like Matilda, or what was it?
Marnie and Betty.
Marnie and Betty.
What do you mean escaped? Oh, they love it here. They would never want to run away.
Well, have any of them ever left the property?
Oh, on occasion, I have to go and rescue cats almost every day because they're always getting into trouble, but they're always happy to see me.
Yeah, I'm talking about the real big ones, I'm not too worried about the smaller ones, but the real big ones.
Like Marnie and Betty.
Yes.
Oh, on occasion, but they're no trouble. I'll just go and get them back.
Okay. I'm just gonna I'm gonna have to write some paperwork on this report here, just putting that away in my knowledge capsule, But I'm just not gonna.
Can I put this thing down now?
Oh, please do, Jerry. She seems very calm now.
Do you ever get near her?
Oh, yes. Oh, she's so lovely. She's a very friendly kitty.
Okay, against literally all of my better judgment, literally every single brain cell is going, don't do this. I'm going to move Matilda over to a non-blood-stained spot. Probably near Miss Gladstone, and just very gently lower her to the ground.
All right, so as you lower Matilda to the ground and her feet touch the ground, she immediately runs over to Mrs. Gladstone and sort of rubs against her side, kind of like a cat rubbing against your leg, and just leaves this huge smear of gore across Mrs. Gladstone's face as, Mrs. Gladstone really only comes up to this thing's shoulder. And Mrs. Gladstone just pats it on the head and strokes it, and you can hear this really throaty purring as this thing literally just wraps its entire body around Mrs. Gladstone. Its tentacles sort of spiraling around her upper body, and Mrs. Gladstone starts speaking to it in very soothing terms.
Oh my God! I turn to you guys and I'm like, can we please get the hell out of here?
Gonna try to use the rope to get out of the tree. Just sort of slide down the tree.
Yeah, you managed to get down pretty handily. It's pretty easy to climb down the tree.
Well, Mrs. Gladstone, is there anything else that we can do for you now that we have Matilda down from the tree?
Oh, you've been lovely. I would love to see all of you again for tea. Maybe if Matilda gets up in a tree again, I'll call you. Oh, you've been so helpful.
Dear God.
Yeah, if any of these ever get out, if you need any more help with them, don't hesitate to ask, because I feel like we might be needed.
Oh, I certainly won't. You're just lovely folks, and I will absolutely invite you back for tea.
I'm just wiping the blood off of my armor.
And as you guys start getting ready to vacate these very cat-infested premises, you do notice that walking back through the hallways to the foyer and eventually to leave, there are certain doors that you might not have noticed before, but they are locked. Some of them are similar to the room that Mrs. Gladstone pointed out where Matilda was born. The large cracks in them. Some of them are boarded over. You do hear sort of pacing back and forth from the floor above as you pass under a certain room. you do hear sort of the tapping of claws on the floor, or on the ceiling, rather, above you. And it sounds like there's very low rumbling growls coming from up there. And even some more quiet sort of meow, 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 coming from the same room. Possibly the wee babies of the whatever creatures Mrs. Gladstone was talking about before. And working your way out, swarmed by cats. Now, most of you just sneezing and eyes watering just from the preponderance of cats all around you. Even if you didn't think you were allergic before, you've certainly developed one over the past hour or so. And getting out into the sunlight, into the fresh air outside of Mrs. Gladstone's mansion, walking out onto the street. It's now the lunch hour, and things are a bit busy here in this district. People are going about their business, going to the different shops and cafes around, and your blood-smeared paladin carves quite a sight as he pushes his way through the crowds, on your way back to the Adventurers Guild Hall, on your way back to fight another day, to go on more adventures, and to perhaps, in the future, help Mrs. Gladstone again with her little cat problem.
Dear God, please no.
And with that, I think we will end tonight's session. Thank you guys for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. This was a lot less dark than some of the other ones that I've done, but still.
What, besides like murdering like potentially 20, 30 cats?
Well, Sure. But yeah, it was less dark. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I had a ton of fun. Thank you guys for watching. Dungeons and Devs is a weird experimental thing that I'm having some fun with it, and I'm trying to get more people interested just because I love playing D&D. I love talking to other game developers, and I hope that you guys enjoy watching it. I hope that you guys enjoyed being on, and I hope that you'll come back in the future because I hope this has been a good experience for you.
Anytime and every time, man.
Awesome.
No.
Awesome.
Yep, same here.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Come in for inspiration.
Thank you guys so much, and I will see you later.
See.